basketball has to take a back seat as we all think about somebody who is very unique, very special.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily podcast on fantasy basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast brought to you by Fantrax and Basketball Monster. My name, of course, is Josh Lloyd and you can find me on Twitter at redrock_bball. Today, of course, we're broadcasting on a day where the NBA lost a huge member of the community. Obviously, our thoughts go out to the Sager family. Terrible news to hear that Craig Sager has passed on. He's obviously been a part of pretty much everyone's life who has been involved in the NBA, whether that's from a media standpoint. I know plenty of people who have met him and have spoken very highly of that experience, and just people who watch at home. And he was a part of your life for the last 27 years as a sideline reporter. We all know how special that Craig was to everyone that he was close to and everyone who came in contact with him. So our thoughts go out to the Sager family and to the TNT basketball family and the general NBA community as well. Not a great thing to wake up to when you wake up here in Australia in the morning and you see that news come through. So, I guess we could say it was always not expected, but you had it in the back of your head that, okay, he's in a very serious fight here, but you never want to hear that news come through that he has actually lost that fight. So again, everyone is feeling a sense of sadness, I guess, at the loss of someone who was such a part of everyone who enjoyed the NBA's life. I don't think there's anyone who can deny that. And I don't think there's anyone who can really say anything bad about Craig Sager. You can have negative comments about coaches, players, announcers, shout out to Reggie Miller, but I don't think anyone can really say anything negative about Craig Sager. Yeah, he wore weird suits, but that's part of why we loved him. And in the end, it was a celebration of all the stuff that he was wearing. And going back through the video clips produced today was... It got a little dusty at times. I'm sure it did for plenty of you people who were listening or watching those things as well. I don't want to dwell on that too much, but it is important that it gets acknowledged because we know how much of a huge part of the NBA Craig Sager was for so many years. We are going to talk, of course, today about Thursday's action, all 5 games there. Preview the 10 games that we've got coming up on Friday, and as we usually do on a Friday podcast, is look back over the last 2 weeks. Talk about the top 20 players, talk about some guys who I think may be overvalued, some guys who I think may be currently undervalued, and talk about the players who are owned in, say, less than 50% of leagues, who are top 100 players, and whether this is sustainable and whether they are guys that you want to go and grab. We'll get straight into that right now. So
let's get to it.
All right, we'll start off in a pretty familiar place, and that is, of course, the monstrous line of the night. And today it goes to Damian Lillard of the Portland Trail Blazers. Lillard dropped 40. He had 3 rebounds. He had 10 assists, 4 triples, a very efficient 13 of 22 for Dame, and of course 10 of 11 from the free throw line. He has been really good this season. Now, last year, his fantasy value was plagued by a massive dip in his production with the removal of Nick Batum and LaMarcus Aldridge. He took on a huge load. Extra 3 shots a game last year and saw his percentage dip. Well, this year he's shooting 46% from the field on that same 19 shots per game, which is massive. And that, last year with his field goal percentage, he became a tough guy to deal with in rotisserie leagues. But now with that going up and being pretty consistent, although the last 2 weeks he's dipped down to 44, but even at 44, it's doable. It's achievable to deal with that. When you get to under 42 on 20 attempts a game, that's where there's a little bit of a concern. But Lillard has been great in that area. He's not doing it on 50% shooting from 3 or anything stupid like that. He's at 37% from there and generally just shooting at a much better rate, taking his points per game up to 28 a game, 2.7 triples. The thing with him is he's never going to give you these big assist numbers, although over the last 4 games, over 9 assists a game. That's impressive. But the thing that's never going to happen with Lillard is steal numbers. He's at 0.9 this year, and some of that is him being really just an Ole type defender, but a large part of it is what Terry Stotts does defensively as well, and doesn't want the guards coming in and gambling for steals. Guys like Mo Harkless will do that. You'll get Mason Plumlee getting his hands on a lot of balls.
Giggity!
But the guards don't tend to do that. Now, I think if they had guards in place who were good at that, then the steals would come. It's part and Or it's a two-part thing. It's Stotts is not necessarily encouraging this, and Lillard and McCollum are not guys who are going out there and really able to play these passing lanes as well as what some other people do. Because if you're a good defender, like Harkless, you will get the steals. If you're a poor defender and the system doesn't work in your advantage, like Lillard, then there's no way you're getting steals. And a number under 1 for a point guard is horrible, and that's what does drop his overall value. But he is the 12th ranked player for the season in 8 category leagues, and putting up really, really impressive numbers, and did it again today. It was always going to be a good matchup against the Nuggets backcourt, which we'll talk about that a little bit later. But he took full advantage, scoring 40 in a game that they got absolutely pummeled in. And when you look at the final score, it doesn't look like a pummeling, but it was. The Nuggets, they're going to be a pretty large focus of this show, I reckon, when we talk about them a little bit later on. But Lillard gets himself the monstrous line of the night. Let's talk waiver wire line of the night, and it goes to Justin Holiday of the New York Knicks. Talking about someone that got their hands on a lot of balls, Justin Holiday had 6 steals, 15 points for Holiday, 2 triples, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, a block as well, 5 of 8 from the field, and 3 of 4 from the free throw line. He played just the 23 minutes, which is actually down from the 25 he played last game. So it wasn't like he got this extraordinary opportunity. Yes, there was no Derrick Rose. Yes, there was no Melo. But in the last game when Melo played, he played more minutes. He just took advantage of it by getting a ton of steals. And he's got a ton of steals quite a few times this season. He has got over 2 steals in 3 games, and that might not sound like a lot, but the guy is not playing many minutes. He's averaging under 20 minutes a game, and to have gotten over 3 steals in those games is impressive. And even in those 19 minutes, he's averaging a steal a game, which again is useful for a guy that's not playing all that much. A steal and a 3, they're not terrible numbers. In fact, over the last 2 weeks, Justin Holiday has creeped inside the top 100. In 21 minutes, averaging 8 points, but 2 steals, 44 and 86 is his percentages. Hitting over a 3 a game, almost 4 rebounds and 1.5 assists. Do I believe that he's a 12-team league guy? No, of course I don't. But his name should always be coming up, because you know who the other the backup wing on this team is? His name's Lance Thomas, and he is terrible. He is really, really bad. And we saw that today. And Holiday's going to have this relatively consistent 19 to 20-minute role, and he's improving and improving as the season goes along. So in a 14-team league, yeah, absolutely, Justin Holiday is someone you look at. And in a 16, there's no reason he should be on any waiver wire. He's owned in only 1% of leagues. So some of these deeper leagues he is floating around on. And have a look to see if he's around, because I don't see this role going anywhere, and he is continually getting better as the games go on, which is always something you want to see with a player on a new team and in an expanded role as well, which is what he's doing at the moment. Of course, if you want to hear more about the Knicks, listen to Locked On Knicks with Jared Dubin. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, as this podcast is as well. And even if you don't listen to the Knicks, there's a podcast that can help you, or your favorite team. You are a Suns supporter. Callan Olsen will get you covered over on Locked On Suns. You want to listen to the Bulls. Sean Hyken, Cody Westerland with Locked On Bulls. And of course, Jared Dubin will talk about Melo's shoulder issue that caused him to miss today's game, Derrick Rose's back issue, the play of Brandon Jennings, Ronnie Baker, Koch, Billy Hernan Gomez, whatever happened to Kristaps Porzingis, all that sort of stuff. Jared will have that 5 days a week, of course, as part of the Locked On Podcast Network. And I always welcome new listeners to this podcast. I had a great tweet from someone today saying it was the first time they'd listened to the podcast yesterday. And he says, it's great, even if you're not interested in fantasy. And that's awesome. If you are not interested in fantasy, I still want you to listen to this podcast. And that's why, tell your friends, if you don't want to give away a competitive advantage, you know what? I've got plenty of arguments against that. But if you don't want to give away a competitive advantage to people that you play in fantasy, I understand that. But even people who don't play fantasy, tell them about this podcast. We go over every game, every day, talk about every situation that's going down. I don't think you'll find a more up-to-date NBA podcast anywhere in the world. I'm not saying it's the best. I try to make it the best. I'm not saying that I'm the best analyst or host. Again, I try to be those things, but you won't find a podcast that is as up-to-date as this one anywhere. So I do recommend that you check it out. And of course, all the other shows like Locked On Knicks with Jared Dubin. Let's talk Young Gun of the Night. I didn't have to change the jersey up there behind me because Miles Turner gets it for the second night in a row. 26 points for Turner, 8 boards, 1 assist, 1 block, 11 of 14 from the field is fantastic, 4 of 5 from the free throw line. And this bloke is he's pushing for top 30 value. Well, he's not pushing because he's ranked 26, so he is a top 30 guy this year in under 30 minutes a game. And we We would love for him to just continually get more shots. Not sure Nate McMillan's going to do that. Did it a little bit in this game, but he should be the number 2 option. He is a guy that, and I'm pretty sure I said this yesterday, he is going to be a top 15 guy, and maybe I said top 20. But he's going to be a top 15 player, I believe, by the end of his rookie contract. He could ostensibly average 20 and 10 with 2.5 blocks, with a 3 a game on 55 and 80. He could do those things. He's not actually far away now. He's at 15 and 7 with 2.3 blocks, 54 and 80. And hitting 35% of his threes, but 42% over the last 2 weeks. He just needs to take a few more of them. If he starts taking a few more, and could he be could we see a guy, and I probably should check this before I go too far, because maybe one of these other players is already doing this, a guy that is averaging 2 blocks and 2 threes a game? No, the player that I was thinking of is not doing that yet, but Turner is going to be a player who challenges that. There's another bloke who's probably going to get there a lot sooner, but that is going to be Towns, Embiid, Turner. These guys are going to start doing this. There's other players coming through in the next couple of seasons. Maybe I'm wrong on this, but I think DeAndre Ayton is a player that might be able to do that. A few other concerns with him, but he's a big man who can stretch the floor a little bit as well. Anthony Davis, maybe, probably not, but there are these guys, these big men this is going to be part of the new norm, and Turner has been fantastic this season. If you took the gamble on him, wherever it was, most likely you might have got him in the 60s or 70s, which is outright theft. I think we had him ranked the 40s maybe at the start of the year, and even that's looking a little bit low at the moment. But Miles Turner was fantastic, has been fantastic, and again, it's all part of when I look at things, where does it go? Where can it go? Well, he's got plenty of room to grow. He's taking 10 shots a game. We talked about Lillard taking 20 shots a game. Now, Turner's not going to take 20, but 13, 14, puts him to 20 points, plays an extra 3 minutes a night. The sky is almost the limit with this guy. He is a very fantasy-friendly guy, and he was a guy that I was pretty ravey about heading into last season, or not ravey, at the draft last season. This guy's got a fantastic fantasy game, and then broke his thumb, and we didn't see him for much, but he has been ridiculous, and I'll stop going on about him. Let's talk dud of the night now, and not often that you see this guy in this category. Yep, exactly, Steve. He has been an award winner plenty of times this season. Don't think he's been a dud of the night. 8 points for Porzingis, 5 rebounds, 4 of 13 from the field, missed both of his free throws, no steals, no blocks, no threes. I saw a tweet today with a stat that in the games that he's played against Draymond Green, he is averaging 4.7 points per game. It's weird that Draymond is just killing him. It wasn't a good performance from Porzingis, and he was the guy that I was checking on to see if he was averaging 2 threes and 2 blocks a game. He's at 2.1 triples and 1.8 blocks, so he's not far away. In the last week, he is at 2 threes and 2.5 blocks. Not quite where try that again. It's just a small sample size, but that's, he can easily do that. Miles Turner is ranked ahead of Porzingis for the season. I think the Porzingis can get better, but the difference there is that Turner's shooting 54% and Porzingis is at 46%. Turner's at 80 plus from the line, Porzingis is at 77%. That's the slight difference in their value at the moment, 2.5 blocks to 1.8 blocks. But Porzingis is still putting up ridiculous value. And in a game without Rose and Anthony, he got swallowed up by Green. If it was another game against another opponent and with no Mello and no Rose, maybe this wouldn't have been the case. I don't think it's, oh man, he needs these other players around. I don't think that's the case. I think it's a combination of A, just a bad night, B, Draymond Green, and C, those other people there not to really bail him out. So we had 3 factors going against him, which he still, it wasn't a bad idea to play him in DFS. I did on one site, killed me. That was on Draft Stars, and my Draft Stars lineup, I played him. Obviously didn't work out there because you think, okay, he can get his shot up whenever he wants. It just wasn't happening for Kristaps today, so I think we just chalk this up to being just a shit night, really. That's basically all it was for Kristaps Porzingis. All right, now let's move into talking about the games now in a little bit more detail. Do that right now. The first game we're going to take a look at is the Indiana Pacers and the New Orleans Pelicans. We've spoken about Miles Turner. Paulie George, not a great night from George. 18, 4 and 4, still had 2 steals, still had 2 triples, and was actually relatively efficient for him, going 6 of 13. But I think it's fair to say he's been a mild disappointment this year. He hasn't been a huge disappointment, but when you think that he came back last year from the broken leg, and a horrible injury, no doubt, and now he was 1 year removed from that, you think, okay, let's take it up a notch. When in fact he's declined in a few areas, and that's something of a concern. And he started off last year red hot, and then, as he always does, it drops off into a significant hole. Does he drop off from here? Because that's the worry, because his numbers now are below where his overall season averages were for majority of categories last season. Not all of them, some of them up, some of them down, but he's definitely not ahead of where he was. And then if the decline comes, where does that leave him? We'll see. He only took 13 shots here, which is third most on the team. And that's not going to be a winning situation for this team. Jeff Teague took the most. He had 21, 6 and 10 on 18 shots. Only hit 7 of them, but still took 18 shots. I don't think that a team can win when Jeff Teague is their number one offensive option. And that's how we saw this play out. Really a horrible loss for the Pelicans. Also, never a good idea to me to be giving 13 shots to Alex Jefferson in 18 minutes. I don't understand why Kevin Seraphin has been excised from the rotation, but that's how Nate McMillan's running things. And you know, I don't have anything personal against fans of any teams, but when people make shit decisions, I'm glad that it goes awry. And I think that's a bad decision to have Seraphin completely out of the rotation, so you can give 8 minutes to Lavoy Allen or give 18 minutes to Al Jefferson, who is just a statue. He's not even a statue. He is or something worse, a melted statue. I don't know. He's bad on defense, and it's a real issue. Yeah, you know what? He scored 14 points, but taking 13 shots in that time frame, I would prefer them going other areas and him just not being on the court that much. I thought they'd figured it out before Seraphin hurt himself a couple of weeks back, and they were limiting Jefferson 5-6 minutes. Seraphin was playing defense, but it just doesn't work out with Big Al in there. But no, who am I? I'm not coaching the Pacers. Thad Young, 36 minutes. So the minutes are fine. The production is bad. 7 and 9 with 2 steals, but that's 5 steals for Young in the last 2 games. So helping in that area. Not a must-own 10-team league guy. Probably still a 12-team guy, but in 10-teamers, most likely get more value from streaming that spot. He's just not going to take the shots. If you still want the steals, he can get them, but he has been down aside from the last 2 games. There was no Rod Stuckey. There was no Monte Ellis, so it opened up an opportunity for Little Dog Glenn Robinson III and CJ Miles. Those guys combined for 7 points in 63 minutes. It's just not happening now. They did take 16 shots combined, 1 of 7 for Robinson and 1 of 9 for Miles, so not great nights there. So it was okay that they took those shots, but even with Stuckey and Ellis missing the next game on Saturday, I don't think that you need to be going and looking at Robinson and thinking, let's add him, unless we're talking 16-teamers. CJ Miles has been not great. He's a November specialist as well, and now we're out of November. His numbers are likely going to suffer, so he's not someone that I think is worth it. Maybe 14-team leagues, but they're going to fill this hole, and it's not going to be awesome for them. I don't think there's not much fantasy value in those guys. On the Pelicans, we had the return of Tyreke Evans. Just the 11 minutes for Tyreke, but this is what he can do. 7, 3, and 2 with a triple in 11 minutes. We saw last season he improved his three-point shooting out of sight. The problem I have with Evans is how the minutes going to go. We know he's talented. We know what he can do in 30-plus minutes. We know that's top 50 worthy. How long is it going to be till he gets there? Is it next year? Probably. It's probably January. But his upside is tremendous. It's really good. Now, the debate I've been seeing around in a lot of places is, do we grab Chandler Parsons or do we grab Tyreke Evans? The overwhelming consensus seems to be Evans. Evans is the better player. I don't subscribe to that necessarily. I think Evans is good. I think Parsons is as the same, not the same, well, yes, the same sort of value in a fantasy player. They both can be top 40 players. Yes, they're both coming off knee issues, persistent knee issues. Parsons was bad in those first couple of games when he came back, but I don't care. That doesn't bother me. I think both guys, I don't think you want to add both of them to a team. I don't think you go, hey, look, Evans and Parsons are both there. Let's add them both and let's hold on for these 15-minute a night games for the next 3 weeks. That'll do you in. But adding one of them, They both totally should be owned. And Chandler Parsons is going to be back this weekend, it appears, as is Mike Conley, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But Evans is back now, and it's going to be a slow road. Again, 2017 is probably when we're looking at him getting to full minutes. And at this point with his knees, what is full minutes? Is it 27? Is it 34? I don't know what they're going to do with him long term. The Pelicans, for all the injuries they have, their medical staff has no issue with putting very long-term minutes limits on players, like we saw with Drew Holiday for like 3 months last season. So that could be the case for Tyreek as well. So bear that in mind, but definitely have a look. Drew Holiday was great, 16, 7, and 14. Timmy Frazier is out now for the next 10 days with that wrist sprain. Drew was fantastic, and Anthony Davis was awesome as well. 35 and 16 for Davo with 5 blocks and 2 triples there as well. Good game from Bud Hield, and this is one thing that I don't pride myself on, but I make sure that I do it. If I don't like a player or I don't believe in certain things, when they have a good game, I'll acknowledge it. And I'll say, you know what, this is a good sign from Buddy Hield. 33 minutes from Bud, 21 points, 5 triples, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. That's really good. He looks a lot more comfortable with the starters. He shot 47% on 17 attempts. He went 5 of 8 from the 3-point line. These are great numbers. He had a red-hot third quarter. Fantastic stuff. Do I believe in it long term? No, I'm not sold on Buddy Hield, but this is definitely a step in the right direction. I still don't think that he is going to be a starter level player on a good team, but this is a huge step in the right direction. I'm not rushing out to go and grab him in 12-team leagues. I'm probably not even doing that in 14-team leagues, despite 21 points looking very, very appealing. In his previous 2 games, he'd done nothing, and he'd been a ceremonial starter for a lot of that time. And I think it's going to be that way for him a lot, that if he gets it going and his shot is falling, then he will play. And if he doesn't, then he will be limited, and we'll see more Langston Galloway, who was only 2 of 10 here, so that had some impact. Yeah, Etuan Moore will get some of those minutes. Yeah, Tyreek, Tim Frazier, these guys, there's a lot of other guards who can cut into that time. So if it's not going for Hield, he hasn't done anything to allow himself to have a buffer of, I'm having a shit game, but let's stick out there. Alexia Jinsa got another start, 8 boards, 2 steals, and a block. He's more effective to me when Davis is out rather than playing next to him. But in 20-team leagues, sure. Omer Ashik played just 7 minutes. I'm pissed that we're not seeing more Sheikh Diallo. I would have loved for him to just be getting these 6 or 7 minutes that Ashik is getting, but that's not the case. Solly Hill did nothing in his revenge game, and I touched on Langston Galloway. Terrence Jones with a nice 10 and 11 double-double with 2 blocks. This is what he can do. He's just as likely to go 6 and 2 in the next game, so don't get too excited about Tezza. Terrence Jones is owned in more leagues than Cody Zeller. That is ridiculous to me. Ridiculous. Don't bother with Terrence Jones in most 12-team formats. Let's talk about the next game, and it is my insipid Chicago Bulls, who were blown out by the Bucks until a fake rally in the fourth quarter got them close. They still ended up losing by 11, but they were getting their pants pulled down and their asses smacked with wooden spoons in that first half. Dwayne Wade, he just looked disinterested, despite the fact that he went 20 points, 3 rebounds, 6 assists, a steal, and a block on 8 of 13 shooting. He just didn't look great. Jimmy Butler went 21, 3 and 3 with 2 steals and a triple. Not a great night there because he shot 6 of 16, but still just putting up some numbers. Taj Gibson's best night in a while, 19 and 4 with 24 minutes. But Fred Hoiberg, yep, he mixed up the rotation all right. He we'll talk about what happened with Taj. Both him and Robin Lopez didn't close the game. They went with the imposing front line of Bob Portis and Chris Felicio. Fred Hoiberg's out of his depth. I think as a coach, he makes very, very, very strange coaching rotational decisions. And we had another one here. Yeah, we're going to change up the rotation. And I'll start with the good. Isaiah Cannon out of the rotation. That's as many thumbs as I've got. I'm giving you up because Cannon is A, not good. B, has not been good. C, can't shoot when he's billed as a shooter. He offers nothing to this team. I believe he's shooting under 30% from 3. He's not good. He's out of the rotation. Yeah, 3 thumbs up. So he was replaced by Denzel Valentine. Now, I like Valentine. Valentine was playing backup point guard. We had no Jaren Grant in this game as well. So we had Valentine playing on the wing and the backup point guard. And he still has a lot of issues, and he's not going to be a standard league contributor this year. But 5, 3, and 2 in 19 minutes with a 3, which was the only shot he hit, is not terrible. You know, some decent performances from Denzel. Dougie McDermott is just lost at the moment, 8-5 in 28 minutes. Him playing minutes over some other guys doesn't feel right to me. He's just an absolute nightmare on defense, just puts up no resistance most of the time whatsoever. And in fantasy, he is a nothing. He is like Ryan Anderson, but 100 times worse, if that's possible. And I reference that because Anderson gives you nothing but points and threes. That's what McDermott does, but in a much smaller capacity. No assists, no rebounds, no blocks, no steals, no nothing. There is your league has to be pretty deep to get Dougie McDermott in. Robin Lopez, 6-6, 25 minutes, not a great night. Rajon Rondo, it almost goes without saying, not a great night. 5-5 with 8 assists and a steal. You still have to own him, but the fact that he played under 30 minutes here is indicative of maybe what moves forward. I don't think it will, but Højbjerg did make the tough choices. And he made one right, and he made one horribly wrong. Because Nikola Mirotic was a DNP CD. Now, Højbjerg was quoted the other day as saying, I haven't put Mirotic in a great position to succeed. No shit. Like, obviously you haven't. You have been mucking around with his confidence, his role, his stability for the last season and a half. And when you give him constant playing time, it's worked. It's not hard. It's not hard to work out. The Bulls are the worst three-point shooting team in the league. Now, I get somewhat of a perverse pleasure in this because at the start of the year, I was very critical of the Bulls. They started out the season red hot, and then I went on a podcast and we were talking about it and saying, do you change your stance on the Bulls? And I sounded like an idiot at the time. I goes, no, I don't believe this sticks. I don't believe that these players are hitting these threes. I don't believe that the Bulls are going to be the best three-point shooting team moving forward. I think they're going to go back to being terrible. And as a Bulls fan, I wish they stayed good. I wish they stayed shooting, but it never made sense. And now they're gone back to terrible. The roster construction is terrible, and the rotational decisions are terrible. Mirotic needs to play, but instead, he gets replaced by Bobby Portis, who has been an abject disaster, basically all season. Disastrous. We need to see more Mirotic and Gibson together, not Portis playing. I like Chris Felicio. He was 7-6 with a steal. He definitely should be above Portis. But Felicio and Portis and McDermott should not be ahead of Mirotic. They shouldn't. As for Mirotic's fantasy value, there's no reason to hold on in 12-team leagues. His potential is through the roof. If he's in a role where he's getting 30 minutes, it just doesn't appear that's going to be the case at this point unless Højbjerg makes another substantial change. You love him getting 30 in the starting lineup, whether that's next to Lopez or whether that's next to Gibson. Spreading the floor out, being this shooter, being a guy who can knock down 39% of threes. Now, he hasn't been that guy this year, but some of it's been who he's playing with and just general a slump and a confidence-induced slump. And I feel like I'm defending him too much, but it hasn't been an ideal situation. Cut your losses if you've got Mirotic, move on, and let's see how this pans out. It'll be interesting to see what happens with him in restricted free agency. I feel like I talked about the Bulls there for way too long. On to the Bucks. Giannis Antetokounmpo, 30-14, 2 triples, 3 assists, 3 steals, 1 block. Another big night for him. And Jabari Parker was fantastic. And he said after the game that when he plays Chicago, he gets an extra boost. It'll be really interesting to see what he does in the next game, which is today or tomorrow, whatever day you're listening to this, when they travel to Chicago and he plays them there. 28 points for Jabari, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 triples, and 2 steals. And he has been great. Interesting, there was a poll out today from, I believe it was Cole Zwicker. Which of these forwards from the 2014 draft would you want on your team? And it was Jabari Parker, Julius Randle, and Aaron Gordon. I voted Jabari Parker. He had, I think, 58% of the vote, and then it was like 26% Aaron Gordon and 20% Julius Randle. I was stunned that anybody voted for Julius Randle, or anybody who wasn't a Lakers fan voting for Julius Randle, but that was an interesting poll that he put out there. But Parker, he looked really good today. He's still got a lot to work on, but getting the 2 steals, getting the 3 triples has been a huge bonus from him this season. Greggy Monroe had some issues finishing, but still 7-5 with 3 assists, 2 steals, and a block is useful, and it has value in 12-team leagues despite him consistently being limited. While John Henson's mini, whatever that was, blow-up, explosion, breakout, has been tempered. 26 minutes for Henson, 4-10 with a steal and 2 blocks. But one thing you can say about Jason Kidd, I don't offer him much in terms of positive reinforcement, but his rotation has been consistent lately. Guys are in roles and they're sticking in roles. I don't fully agree with the roles, but they are in these roles and they are sticking with them for the majority of the time. Henson's getting 26 minutes, Munro's getting 21. That's basically just what's happening. Yeah, Malcolm Brogdon gets 21 to 24 minutes. Tony Snell gets 27 to 30 minutes. Dellavedova gets 27 to 30 minutes. A mixture of Michael Beasley or Mirza Teletovic gets minutes in the 18 to 20 range. He's been really consistent with what he's done. Now, there's still decisions. I would have Munro over Henson, and I would have Brogdon over Snell. But at this point, we know what we're getting. Snell was dreadful. No revenge game for him because he's shit. Malcolm Brogdon had 7 assists in his 21 minutes. He had 5 points. I know he's good. I know plenty of you that watch him know he's good. It's all a matter of where is the opportunity, how is the opportunity growing? And it can easily grow, but will it grow? So he is a tough stash in a daily changes 12, but in a 14-team league, I think he's got value there. And Dellavedova is only owned in 35% of leagues, but another 9 assists today with 9 points. He normally gets you some steals, normally gets you some triples as well. Those assists almost on their own make him a 12-team league guy. So have a look. Hey, do you need assists? Dally's going to be around. You can get 6 out of him. You can get 9 out of him. You could get a nice, good, above-average assist production from a guy whose role is pretty rock solid at the moment. So take a look and see if he can help you in that category. All right, let's talk about Portland and Denver. Dame, I already spoke about. CJ McCollum, 23 points, had 2 blocks. That's fluky. 3 rebounds and 4 assists. While Mason Plumlee's huge run continues. 19, 7, and 4 for Plum with 2 steals, and he is the king of the reverse dunk. Whenever he gets a chance, it's just a reverse alley-oop, reverse breakaway dunk. I don't know why. No idea. Just constant reverse dunks. Mo Harkless played 36 minutes. It wasn't a brilliant Mo Harkless night, but still 9 points with a 1-1 is exactly what we can use in fantasy. And I do think he's a 12-team league guy. Now, I've had lots of questions coming in today about Gaz Harris, which I'll talk about in a sec. And a very common one, do I drop Mo Harkless for Gary Harris? Yes, you do. That is a move that I would make. Is Jeremy Lin available? You drop Mo Harkless for Lin. These are the moves that if Chandler Parsons was available, I'd probably drop Harkless for Parsons. But otherwise, Harkless is a guy that should be owned. Also, don't be afraid to consider Evan Turner. 25 minutes for Turner, 9, 5, and 2 with 3 steals and a block, and over the last 2 weeks, he's 120th. So he's creeping up. And 120 means in 14-team leagues, you want to own him. 120 in 12-team leagues means, shit, do I need to own him? You need to be considering him because he's putting up solid numbers. He's settled after a horrendous start and he's contributing in the steals, rebounds, assists, decent points. Nothing great, but he's helping. So have a look. Don't discard him because he sounds like a frog or because he's Evan Turner. And he's seriously, whenever I see him talking, like you see him arguing with the ref, I just hear that voice in my head. How can you take him seriously? If he was talking to you and he was yelling with that voice, man, I'm struggling to keep I can't even keep a straight face now, but he was speaking with that Kermit voice, I would struggle. Speaking of struggling, Noah Vonleh got another start, 6 and 7 for Vonleh in 18 minutes, and with Al-Farouq Aminu out again, the power forward minutes are split between him, Eddie Davis, and Myers Leonard. Nothing too exciting to see with those guys. They went with Mo Harkless at the 4 a bit, allowing Alan Crabb and Evan Turner to play the 3-2, and that's probably their best situation. But they got their asses kicked by the Denver Nuggets, who made the change, and it's amazing. It's amazing when you play your best players the most minutes, shit works out. Now, a large portion of the Nuggets' issues have been Mike Malone, but some of it's got nothing to do with him. The fact that you haven't had Gaz Harris for basically all of the season is not Mike Malone's fault. Harris was back. Oh, we're probably going to limit him to 26 minutes. 32 minutes for Gaza. 18 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, 3 triples, 1 block. Beautiful. Now, you know why I've been giving him a virtual reach around for most of the season. He's good. This is his 3rd year. A lot of people, he's gonna lose minutes to Will Barton. Like, farting Will Barton is not challenging Gary Harris. Gary Harris is a huge part of what this team does. Yeah, look, maybe Jamal Murray does take over from him at some point. I don't think it's this season. I really believe in Harris as a player. And you need to believe in him as well. If he's around, please grab him. This is a fantastic line. He won't do this every night. There's no way. Like, 6 assists is huge for him. He just doesn't handle the ball that often. But it was great to have him with his starting lineup. The other changes they moved. Darrell Arthur, out of the lineup, out of the rotation. Wilson Chandler starting at the 4. Fantastic. Yusuf Nurkic out of the starting lineup. 4 minutes off the bench. So our boy Nick Jokic could play at center. Fantastic. Moutier, Gaz, the Rooster, Wilson Chandler, and Jokic. What a starting 5. And I see the arguments come out, man, the Nuggets need to trade someone because they've got too many good players. Like, who cares? I don't care these other guys are good. Play your best ones. These are your best ones. Now, Kenneth Reed might be good. Yusuf Nurkic might be good. Jameer Nelson might be good. And maybe he's better than Emmanuel Mudiay. Will Barton might be good. But they're not Harris. They're not Gallinari. They're not Chandler. They're not Jokic. Play your best players. Manny Moutier only got the 22 minutes, 10 points with 4 assists and a steal, while Jameer Nelson had the 26, 15 for Jameer with 3 assists. I don't think that Jameer is really a 12-team league guy, but Moutier could be, but it is hard with the fluctuating minutes. The Rooster was fantastic, easily his best performance of the year, 27, 4 and 3 with 3 triples and a steal, going to the line 8 times. And this is what Gallinari can do. Hopefully this new lineup and the renewed energy and the fact that Gary Harris is bloody good unlocks what he can do. Now, Will Barton, he moved back to the bench. 23 minutes for him. This is what you should expect. I have gotten into many debates and arguments with people, and they'll say, why have you got Barton so low? Because when Harris plays, he is not playing minutes. He is not playing 30 minutes. He is an afterthought. He is not the future of this team. He should not be in their future plans, except as a, who can we hoodwink into taking this guy? He still had a good performance. 15 points, 3 triples, a steal, a block, 2 assists. They're still good numbers. But out of that entire line, the one thing I think is going to stay constant is 23 minutes. I don't think he's going to put up those numbers on a consistent basis. So to me, Will Barton is expendable. If I've got Barton and Harris is around, it's a no-brainer swap to me. Harris is the better player, and it's not close. Ken Fareed played 26 minutes off the bench. Played a lot of center, which I'm a huge fan of. 26 minutes for Fareed, 11 and 9 with a steal and 2 blocks. So these are back to the numbers that he was putting up at the start of the year. He was basically out of the rotation, and with these changes, he's back in. Now, I don't know if this sticks. I still would prefer Juancho Hernan-Gomez to be playing. He was a DMP in this one, as was Darrell Arthur. And Yusuf Nurkic just got 4 minutes. So I don't know what to make of Fareed. I don't believe that he is a must-own 12-team league guy. He got extra run because Jokic was in a ton of foul trouble, so that's going to limit what Fareed can do. He is probably more a 14-team league guy. Now, Jokic was fantastic. He played 19 minutes, had 5 fouls. He didn't need to come in. They didn't need to push it. They got some other guys some run. So I'm not criticizing what Malone did in terms of, I would have loved more minutes, but he still went 13, 4 and 5, hit a 3, had 5 and 6 from the field, and had a ridiculous pass to Fareed in the first quarter. He is just one of the most fun players to watch in the entire league, and he is very, very good. Now, Malone said he needs to give him 30 minutes. Now, I still have some of the issues with shit that Malone says. I found that he's at 24 minutes. Like, no shit, he's at 24 minutes. You put him there. You didn't just discover it and go, man, why is he only at 24 minutes? You guys need to change this. Like, you did it. You fix it. Completely okay with today being limited. I'd love him not to get into foul trouble, of course, and play 30. But when he plays 30, and if he goes over 30, the top 15 is coming. This is just what this guy can do. As for Nurkic, just move on. Just forget about it in 12-team leagues. You can do better. Let's talk about the next game, the San Antonio Spurs and the Phoenix Suns. Back-to-back, Pop rested no one, so he anti-popped everyone. They're all expecting to be popped. Popovich rests everyone. No one rested. They did limit their minutes in a comfortable victory. No one played over 30. Kawhi still was great, 18, 10 and 4 with 2 steals in 27 minutes. Pau Gasol was probably better, 18, 9 and 3 in under 24 minutes. But I'll tell you who still isn't great, LaMarcus Aldridge, 14 and 7. That's not bad with a block in 27 minutes, but I don't know, he's just disappointing. He rubs me the wrong way, and I've said that plenty of times. I don't hold that against him from a fantasy point of view. I thought he'd be better, and I think he will be better in the second half of the year, but he has been a huge disappointment. Tone Parker had 11 points, not much else. He's a 14-teamer. And Danny Green, man, just move on. 16 minutes for Green with 6 points. No point in 12s. And even in 14s, it's getting to be a struggle. Pat Mills, not a great night there. 5 points in 18 minutes for Millsy with 3 assists. If you do own him in a 12-team league, I'm not 100% sure that he's a must. No, I am sure that he is not a must-hold guy in 12-team leagues. Most likely, he's your worst player. Again, you own Patty Mills and Gaz Harris is around. It is a no-brainer of a swap. And I want to talk about a no-brainer in a second because I'll do it now. Let me finish the Spurs and I'll talk about it. Dwayne Dedman's bloody good. I've been saying this for a while, and I was saying I hope that they would start him. He's really good. 11 and 9 for Dedman in 23 minutes. Shout out to Kevin Lappin as well, who wrote an article on Red Rock Basketball a couple of years ago talking about watch this guy maybe be the next, or showing signs of being potentially the next Rudy Gobert. He's not Rudy Gobert, but his profile was leading to something happening in his future, and he is really good. So we're seeing that happen now. A block as well for Dedman with 11 and 9. He makes so much happen for this team, like alley-oops all the time. Vertical spacing is fantastic for Dedman. Great defense. The problem is the Gasol-Aldridge frontcourt pairing is probably not going to be broken up. Dedman would be awesome in there, and if he was starting and playing 27 minutes a night, he'd be a must-own guy. For now, he's just that 16-team league guy, maybe 14-team league, but probably not yet. But just always be aware that this guy is good, and he can be a very, very impressive fantasy contributor. Before I go into the Suns, some people will say things to me, and I'm all for hearing criticism, constructive criticisms. Hey, do this. Why do you do this? Hey, you say this too much. Hey, stop talking shit. Whatever. That's fine. No issue. But people will often say to me, man, you say stuff like, you shouldn't do this sort of a trade when literally that never happens, or this player's never available on waiver wires. The stuff you say that doesn't happen, and I get those comments happen to me. And I want to highlight this because dumb shit happens in leagues. Not going to call out the person who messaged me this, but and the reason I bring these things up because I get questions about these, and I'm not just inventing situations and going, oh, what stupid scenario can I invent in my head that illustrates my point. It's because I hear things like this. So the one I got today was a trade request. Again, not calling out the person who sent this to me, not having a go at you at all. I just want to use this as an example to highlight. I got offered, this is the question I got, I got offered LeBron James and Derek Favors for my Marc Gasol. Should I take it? Right? Yes. Generally when there's a 2-for-1 deal, I'll talk about that in a sec as well. When there's a 2-for-1 deal, you normally want the one side. But when the best player is on the 2 side, then maybe you can make the argument that Gasol is better than LeBron. I wouldn't. I definitely wouldn't. But that's a trade offer. That's a trade offer you hit. Like you go, that's one. If I got it, I'd look at it and go, seriously? Let me read this 4 times just to make sure I'm not giving up 4 players for no one, because it doesn't make sense. Derek Favors and LeBron, and you can make an argument that Favors and Gasol might even have similar value by the end of the year. And then as an add-in, let's just get LeBron as well. So weird shit happens in leagues. Very weird shit happens. And that is an example. As for 2-for-1s, now, I don't know what percentage of people that listen to this podcast also follow me on Twitter or send me messages, or if the people who are messaging me on Twitter are people who don't listen to this podcast. I don't know what the clarification is, but I'm getting so many trade questions about 2-for-1s with people wanting to trade away their superstars to get back 2 middling players. Now, should I trade my Dame Lillard so I get Evan Fournier and Serge Ibaka? No, you should not. And this is happening all the time. In general, in a 2-for-1, in a 12-team or shallower league, if you are trading away a top 10 player or a top 15 player, you're going to want to get back a top 10 or a top 15 player. I'll have people saying, I want to trade away Kevin Durant. Is it okay if I get back Blake Griffin and Drew Holiday? No, it is absolutely not okay. It's absolutely not. This is happening a lot. So, as a general blanket, you're still going to ask me the questions. As a general blanket statement, in a 2-for-1, I want the one. I want the best player. And if you're trading away a top 5 guy, if you're trading away Anthony Davis, Get back another top 5 guy. Don't get back 2 top 50 players. It just won't work in your favour. The difference between these top players and the next rung is so significant that it doesn't generally work in your favour. Sometimes it can, like this 2-for-1 here, trading away Gasol for LeBron in favours. It works in your favour. Sometimes it might be close, and it depends. Who else would you have to drop? Because if you're taking in 2 and giving away 1, you have to drop someone. Who are you dropping? Is your worst player Wilson Chandler? Then probably that doesn't work. Is your worst player Gaz Harris? Is your worst player a top 100 guy? Is he a guy ranked 150th? These are things that you need to pay attention to, but I am getting a real lot of these questions of people wanting to trade away their top 5 guy to get back 2 guys. And in general, I don't like the theory. I don't like it. I don't like doing that. I had another thing I was going to talk about, but maybe I'll leave that for later. I don't want to get too bogged down. Let's talk Phoenix Suns now. Devin Booker, 17 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals and 2 triples is a very nice counting stat night. 6 of 19 from the field is not a good shooting night. And I feel like I have to clarify this all the time. I think that Devin Booker is really good for his age. He's been fantastic for how young he is in the NBA. I think that Devin Booker will develop into a good player. Potentially a great player. But he is not a good shooter. He might become a good shooter, and often when I say this, it'd be like, but he's 20. Irrelevant. Not relevant whatsoever to me. Not in the slightest. At this point in time, he is not a good shooter. He's not playing under 20s. He's playing in the NBA. So therefore, he gets compared to the rest of the NBA. He's shooting under 35% in the last couple of weeks, under 30% from 3. He is not a good shooter. But the reputation of him is he is a good shooter. And he is not. He might become one. Absolutely can. Everything looks fine. But he is not currently a good shooter. That is my clarification. I like Devin Booker. Really nice guy. Great guy. Fantastic guy. Gonna be a good player. At this point, he's not a good fantasy asset, and he is not deserved of a reputation as an elite shooter, which you'll see bandied about in lots of places. Even the other day when Nate Duncan and Danny LaRue were doing their prospect list, lots of comments on that, which you can agree and disagree, and I disagree with a couple of things that that Nate had said, and we spoke about that, and whatever, that's fine. But the amount of people, Booker needs to be in the top 5 of those because he's an elite shooter. No, he is not. He is not an elite shooter. Not by any stretch. And that's my clarification on that. But I like him. I don't know how I can't be any clearer on that. Marquise Chris played 31 minutes again. That's 2 big 30-plus minute games in a row for Marquise. 10 points, 2 triples, 1 steal, 1 block. He's got 111 written all over him. He had just 2 rebounds, which is a little bit concerning. He's never going to get assists, but he is a 111. And if he can stay out of foul trouble, he had 1 foul today, which is absolutely amazeballs for a guy like Marquise Chris. If he can stay out of foul trouble, if he can get 30 minutes, now I think some of this is to do with Alex Len's absence, so that's going to impact him. But then, yeah, and if you've got a spot on a 12-team league and it's a streaming area, maybe you picked up DJ Augustine. You know what? Just punt it. Just go, you know what? Let's just see what's happening with Chris. Let's see if he can maintain 30 minutes. I don't think he will. I think that Alex Len will impact that, and I think that the fouls will limit him from getting it. But 2 in a row is a definite good trend. Jared Dudley had a decent night, 2 blocks, 2 triples and 10 points, leave him for the deeper leagues. Eric Bledsoe, not his best night. He'd been on fire, but 14, 4, and 5, while PJ Tucker played 29 minutes and had 5 points. That is more of the PJ Tucker that we know and love. It was also a great opportunity, I thought, for Tyson Chandler to have a big night, but 26 minutes only there, 4 and 8 with 2 steals. Chandler is still just a field goal and rebound specialist. Really, this was a blowout. We saw Derek Jones and John Jenkins, if that gives you any indication of how much this game was non-competitive at times. Also good to see Dragon Bender have it hit a 3 in his 12 minutes. I still really like Bender. He's not producing, but I do like what he can do. And I think he's going to be a really good player moving forward. Let's talk the last game of the night. another real, not competitive game. The Knicks and the Warriors, there was no Mallow, there was no Derrick Rose, so of course that meant that we got 23 minutes of Ron Baker. 13 points for Baker and 3 assists, and this is 2 games in a row that he's been relied upon by Jeff Hornacek. Brandon Jennings was his usual what are you doing self. 10, 6 and 6 in 29 minutes for Jennings, and at this point he's just a bad player, and that doesn't mean that he's not useful for fantasy because he's getting you shitloads of assists, but if he's your mind-numbingly poor shot selection, dribbling, what are you doing-ness continues, then maybe Hornacek says, you know what, Ron Baker, who looks like he came out of accounts, looks like he's Superman and just ripped the tie off, and the tie would have elastic on it, that he's come out and said, look, all right, coach, he's like the Rudy for this team, that he's ready to go, then maybe Hornacek says, okay, well, we're just going to run Ronnie out there. At least they're not running Sasha Vujacic. But Jennings has some maddening traits. But still, if he's getting 24 minutes a night, Jennings, then the assists, the steals, the threes are useful even in 12-team leagues. But he's on shaky ground. When you look at the top 4 fantasy producers from the Knicks, and the names read Justin Holiday, Ron Baker, Mindaugas, Kuzminskas, and Maurice Ndua, it wasn't a great night. Cock got blocked by the Warriors, 5 and 7. This is what happens, and you know what? I played him in one of my DFS leagues stupidly because I should have said and should have thought. I'm struggling with the words. The Warriors just annihilate centers. That's just what happens. They just don't put up any value. And Cock, it just happened to him. So Quinn had 5 points and 7 rebounds in his 15 minutes. Billy Hernan Gomez back in the rotation. 21 minutes for Bill. Some nice passes. 8 points, 10 rebounds, 2 assists and a block. He's going to be hard to rely upon moving forward. And I touched on it before. Lance Thomas started in place of Mallow. He is dreadful. He had a really good season defensively last year, but every other indicator tells me he is not an NBA quality player. And he just signed a decent contract. Weird stuff from Thomas. He's just not good. 5 points with a block in his 24 minutes. Not really anything else to talk about there. We had 15 minutes of Joakim Noah, and he got 10 rebounds. Leave him for deeper leagues. On to the Warriors. Well, they didn't need to. Now, the Warriors had 41 assists, right, on 45 made baskets. That's awesome, except some of the assists are a load of shit. So be aware of that when the Warriors are playing at home. They get significant hometown discounts on assists. Significant. Draymond Green was bad. Shooting bad. 2 of 12. He was 5, 11, and 7 with 2 blocks, so help you out there. Steph Curry was bad. 3 of 14 from the field, but had 8, 10, and 8. So some other numbers with 2 threes and a steal. Kevin Durant was bad. 7 of 18. 15, 14, and 8 with 2 blocks. Still getting the numbers done. The only one of the big 4 players to shoot over 40% was Klay Thompson in an up game. So he's probably scheduled for a down one in the next one. 10 of 17 for Klay, 25, 5, and 4 with 4 triples. JaVale made another start and had 17 points. Actually the second highest scorer on the team. He finished a ton of alley-oops. You would have to make the argument that he should be the guy that's getting the majority of backup center minutes. He pretty much was anyway, but he is a real key to what they possibly can do. Now, Zaza has been good for them, and I think we're noticing with Zaza out how important he has been, but you know, McGee is clearly ahead of Andy Varejao and Kevon Looney in terms of what he's able to do. Now, with Zaza, it's a bruise on his wrist, so I don't think he's going to miss too much more time. So JaVale's just having that deeper league sort of value at the moment. But interestingly, David West suffered a hip contusion, so we might not be seeing him for a little bit of time. 2, 4, and 4 for Westy with 2 steals and a block in 10 minutes. Was a pretty productive night, but we might not be seeing him moving forward. All right, I rambled an absolute shit ton on all of that today. Now, what we're going to do now is before we head into DFS, we're going to talk about the last 2 weeks and what's been happening. Who are the top 20 players? Who are guys that might be under or overvalued? And who are players that are owned in under 50% of leagues in DFS, or not DFS, in Yahoo? It's Friday. I always struggle on a Friday. Don't know why. Let's talk top 20 players over the last 2 weeks. I love the climactic countdown for the pod. The video people can see the list already. At 20, Russ Westbrook. Yes, he has been poor. This is even for head-to-head, taking out his worst categories. He hasn't been poor, but he has not been the guy that you want him to be. I think that's probably the best way of putting it. Kevin Love at 19 has had a real stellar season. Andre Drummond at 18. Marc Gasol at 17. So Gasol has been definitely better than anyone could have expected. I think he takes somewhat of a step back with Conley coming back, and some of that offensive load comes back, but he has been tremendous this season. No other way to put it. Kawhi at 16, and this is a few weeks in a row where Kawhi just hasn't been in that top 10 zone. Definitely hasn't been the guy that some people were touting to be a top 3 pick, and legit I heard people touting him to be maybe you take him number 1 overall. Cool. Draymond Green at 15. Chrissy Paul at 14. Nick Jokic at 13. There it is. Yanni at 12. Steph at 11. Rudy Gobert at number 10 has been amazing. He is going to lose a little bit when Georgie Hill comes back. Jim Butler at 9. Boogie Cousins at 8. Tony Davis at 7. Eric Bledsoe at 6. That won't sustain. TJ Warren will hurt him somewhat when he returns. Not physically, but he will impact his ability to get stats. But he has been a real asset. Kyle Lowry at 5. You know my take on Lowry. If you can sell him in February, you do it. Or if you can sell him now for someone with top 5 value, you do it. Paulie Millsap been ridiculous since returning from his hip injury. He's at 4. LeBron James is at number 3. Johnny Wall is at number 2. And you'll be... If you've got keen ears and you're listening on the podcast, you'll be saying, hey Josh, you haven't mentioned Kevin Durant and James Harden, and there's only one spot left. So one of them is at number 1 and one of them is not in the top 20. James Harden's at number 1, so that means Kevin Durant is not in the top 20 over the last 2 weeks. I don't think many people would have necessarily realised that his struggles have come to that. Now, I've got no concerns about him long term, but that's where we're at with Durant. I was surprised to see him not in the top 20 myself over the last 2 weeks. Let's look at some overvalued and undervalued players. When looking at, and these are my head-to-head rankings, and for you new listeners, when I do this, I look at the 8 categories, and then I take away each player's worst 2 categories, evaluate them on their top 6, and do it that way. It helps to, rankings in the end, and I've railed on this a million times in the preseason, rankings mean nothing. They don't mean anything preseason rankings because it's all to do with how it fits your team. But in terms of, I can't give you rankings based on every single listener's team, or else we'd be here until the earth blows up. So this gives me an approximation, taking into account their relative punt strategies and values and all that sort of stuff. So that's how I do these rankings. So in the top 100, Lou Williams is at 22. I think we're all aware that he's not going to remain the 22nd ranked player. I think he struggles to remain a top 50 guy. So I guess if you could find a sucker who believes that, maybe he's not a sucker. Maybe I'm the sucker, but I don't think that Williams will be able to retain that value. Jahlil Okafor is at number 33 over the last 2 weeks. Again, I was shocked to see him that high, but he has been playing very well from a fantasy point of view. He can be owned, but the return of Nerlens Noel is going to be really interesting to see exactly how they incorporate Noel and what that does to Okafor's minutes, because I don't think it's impacting the process really at all. At 38, Eric Gordon. Questions coming through. Do I drop Eric Gordon as well? He has been on fire. It's coming on ridiculous shooting, ridiculous three-pointers as well, huge 53s in the last 10 games, stuff like that, which is just absurd. And huge scoring. He's not going to maintain that value. I feel pretty confident of that. He'll slip back to the 80s or 90s sort of range. So look into it. Wesley Matthews at 50. This one you might be able to take advantage of because 2 years ago, this is where he was in Portland. I don't think that he can stick in this zone, but if someone says, nah man, he's good, the Achilles is done, he was a top 50 guy in Portland, if they're reminiscing about Wes Matthews, then maybe you can take a switch and get a top 50 guy back. And Marcin Gortat at 53. I've been saying this all the time, and Jan Mahinmi keeps making me look like a dick by just not returning. But when Mahinmi comes back, Gortat is sliding. So if you can, do it. On the undervalued list, these are the rankings of certain players that I believe are below where they should be. Vic Oladipo at 283. Obviously, he's hurt at the moment. Even when he's back, he won't be the 283rd ranked player. He was poor before that injury. It's great buy low time for him. I'm not a big Brandon Knight fan, but at 264, that's not where he will be. I think he's probably a borderline 12-team league. I don't think he's a 12-team league guy. This goes more for the deeper league guys. In 14-team leagues, look, if he's around, grab him. If you can trade for him for nothing, do it. Geordie Clarkson at 245 has been struggling with everyone back. It's going to be tough for him to get enough minutes on a consistent basis with the way that Luke Walton runs things for him to be that guy that could potentially be top 60. D'Angelo Russell, Uncle P, Lou Williams. And where does Clarkson fit into that trio or into that quartet of guards? Like, where does he get enough minutes? Yeah, they're not going to use Jose Calderon. They're not going to use Marcelo Huertas. But will they play Brandon Ingram at the 2? Maybe they do that a little bit. And that's going to limit what Clarkson can do. But he's also not going to be this bad. Marcus Smart at 188, I think he can find himself inside the top 100 in a punt field goal situation. So he's a nice player. That he's probably on your waiver wire, to be honest. Devin Booker at 163, I talked about him already. Yes, he will be better than this, no doubt. If you can do it. I don't think he will because, again, buying low is not an easy thing to do. And I did mention this the other day, but buying low is... It's not trading a guy based on where you think that they should be. So sending someone, if you think that Devin Booker's a top 70 player and sending someone who is a current top 70 player, that's not buying low. It's buying, Devin Booker's ranked 160th. I've got a bloke here that's ranked 130th. Can I have him? Sure. And then if he gets back, which we think he can, then it works out well. And if he doesn't, and he sticks around that 150 to 120 range, then, oh well, you haven't lost out. That's what buying low is. But I gave my synopsis on Booker before. He will be better than this. Toby Harris is struggling, as is Reggie Jackson, 2 Detroit Piston teammates. 153 for Toby and 147 for Reg. Both those guys will be better, and they're going through, especially Harris, going through a big slump at the moment. You should be able to get him at a pretty significant discount. Gorgie Jeng at 130, he's got top 30 upside, absolutely he has. It is sometimes tough with Tom Thibodeau and the way that he occasionally limits him or doesn't see enough shots, but Jeng will be better than this as well, so he's a nice buy low. I talked about Aldridge already, LaMarcus, that is 102 for him. Look, he was around this same zone last year and then flew home to be a top 30 player over the last half of the year. Not sure it necessarily gets back to that same level, but I think that he will be much improved and should find himself in the top 50 at the end of the year. Kemba Walker struggling. He's out on Friday as well at 81. He will be better. Kyrie at 60. Again, these are 2 top 30 point guards. Karl Anthony Towns ranked 37th. Struggling somewhat. It's going to be tough to go, hey, I'll give you a guy that's in the 30s for Towns. Nobody's going to buy them that. But have a look. Maybe, because, look, there's a lot of irrationality. I say look too much, don't I? It's one of those things that you hear yourself say and you go, stop saying look. But it's like a verbal crutch that I can't get rid of. Anyway, Karl Anthony Towns. People get irrational. So they might be thinking about Karl Towns and saying, man, I spent the 5th pick on him. He's shit. What's happening? This team, why is he's a bust? Why is he having a sophomore slump? Yeah, people will say that. And if you're saying to me, Josh, they won't, someone offered Marc Gasol for LeBron and Derek Favors. So weird stuff happens. That would be an opportunity to get him. Whether it's achievable or not, I don't know. And who you're giving up, I don't know. But I think he'll be better than this. And Kevin Durant at 23. I touched on that earlier. He'll be better than 23, obviously. But as I also referenced earlier, people with Kevin Durant, people with Yanni, people with Kawhi Leonard are trying to get rid of him for 2 players. Hey, should I trade Kevin Durant for these 2 guys, for Kemba Walker and Devin Booker? Should you? No. No, you should not. But if you've got those players, find the Durant owner. And maybe they're thinking on the lines of, hey, I'm going to get 2 solid players for 1. It must work in the opposite. Try it out. Let's talk about some blokes in the top 100 who are owned in under 50% of Yahoo leagues. At 30, Kylo Quinn. He struggled today. I think he'll be better than that. No problem owning him in 12-team leagues. I think he absolutely can be. Far from a must-own, though. He's going to be limited by what Hornacek does with the rotation, and he is prone to fouls as well, but no reason you can't have him in your 13th spot. Bebe Nogueira is at 44 over the last 2 weeks. I feel less confident about owning him in 12-team leagues, and there are going to be better options there. Tone Allen is at 61. He won't be 61 with the return of Conley and Parsons and Jim Ennis coming. That's going to eat into what he can do, but as a steal specialist, that's not going away for Allen. But instead of playing 28 or 30 minutes a night, he's probably going to be 25, so just wait for that drop-off. Jingling Joe Ingles is at 62. Not many people would have expected to see Joe Ingles ranked inside the top 100 in any sort of fantasy situation, but that is exactly where we are with Joe. So he can be looked at more for the 14 or 16 teamers. It's obviously fueled by huge 3-point shooting, massive field goal percentage, which is going to drop. And I believe at this moment Joe Ingles has the 8th best 3-point shooting percentage season of all time. So it's pretty clear that it won't stick at that level. Johnny Henson's at 65. He is dipping. Still a guy to own, but I don't think he necessarily has the must-own tag. Spanish Chocolate at 75. Didn't touch on this, but I'll touch on it now. Jared Bayless is out for the season with his wrist injury, so Spanish Chocolate is a clear must-own. Now, when Benny Simmons comes back, which will likely be next month, it's going to affect what Rodriguez can do, because the Sixers have made a point that Simmons is point guard. He is not playing at power forward and running the show. He will be the point guard. He will be the guy that comes in. So he'll play next to Henderson and Covington and Okafor and Embiid. That's how they'll run the lineup. Yeah, he's 6'10", but he's Magic Johnson. He's not Magic Johnson, but he's Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson was 6'9", and he's a point guard. That's what they're going to run and use Simmons as. So that's going to impact Sergio. For now, clear must-own, but yeah, long-term value, he's probably going to dip back to a 22-minute role or so when Simmons comes back. But when Simmons comes back, and this is when, not if, I have no doubt that Simmons is playing this season. None in my mind whatsoever. I could always be wrong, but I've got no doubt, and I think it will happen in January. But he's not going to come back and just be like 35 a night. It might take him 2-3 weeks to get to that. So he'll be on a minutes limit, and then Spanish Chocolate will continue to be useful. But as soon as that flips and Simmons gets more than Rodriguez, then it's over. For Spanish, it's all done. Courtney Lee at 76. He's got so limited upside, more a 14-teamer to me. Cole Aldrich at 87. He just does stuff. Despite the stats not looking appealing, they are really useful because he gets numbers in the low volume categories. Not really a guy to own in 12s. 14s maybe is more appropriate. The bloke after him, White Centers Unite, 88 for Cody Zeller. This is a guy that I want to own. His minutes are fine. He's efficient. The free throw percentage is coming up. He scores. He's so important to this team. I really like Cody Zeller in 12-team leagues. Garrett Temple at 89. I don't have any faith in him long term. I think he's more a deeper league sort of player. His rank is fueled by a really hot shooting stretch, and we've seen him in his time with Washington. That happens, and then it dips off considerably. And Jim Johnson at number 95. All for owning him. I think that he can do enough in multiple categories, and that makes him a 12-team league guy. All right, I have been talking for very, very long. That is all the seasonal stuff done. I'm going to take a quick break, and then we're going to be back to break down. This is going to be an absolute monster of a podcast. I'm going to be back to break down all 10 games for Friday. See you on the other side. Back. I didn't mean that for that whole bit to be that long, but sometimes when I talk, shit just pours out, and that's just what happens. So apologies for the length. Play it on 2 times speed. Maybe my voice will sound ridiculous because I already speak fast as it is, but that might help you get through it. Let's talk perfect DFS from Thursday. On FanDuel, Jeffy Teague at 44.2. Dame Lillard at 53.6. Yanni at 57.3 against the Bulls, and the return of Gaz Harris gave you 37.8, a huge performance from Gaza. The Nuggets feature prominently in this. Wilson Chandler at 33.1, the Rooster at 36.3. Yeah, that's 3 guys out of that starting lineup, so that's huge for them. It helps when they scored 132 points as well. At power forward, Jabari Parker, 42.5. Great matchup for him against the Bulls. He's got another one of those on Friday. Terrence Jones at 29.7 and Miles Turner at 39.1 for a total of 373.6 on DraftKings. Justin Holiday had 34. Gaz had 39.5. Jabari went for 44.25. Terrence Jones 33.25. Tony Davis 65.5. Jeffy Teague 46.5. The Rooster at 39 and Dame Lillard at 59.75 for a total of 360.75 over on DraftKings. Let's talk games. Let's break them down. The first one of those is the Detroit Pistons and the Washington Wizards. The Pistons are favored by 1 point here, and the total is 203.5. The injury situations, we've got Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who's questionable with a right knee contusion, which caused him to miss a game earlier in the week. And Markieff Morris on the Wizards side of things missed the last game with a sore left foot. He is in the same spot again. If Caldwell-Pope misses, it'll be Stan Johnson or Darren Hilliard that bumps up. Neither one enough to really care about. But for Markieff Morris, it's going to be Kelly Oubre, and then you're going to want to smash him because he had 40 points in the last... he played 40 minutes in the last game, and you would think that he's going to do pretty much the same again if Markieff happens to be out. Let's talk point guards. Johnny Wall is massive at the moment. 9,800 for John. No issue. The matchup's okay. He's averaging 50 or 51 across the last 5 games, relatively consistently as well. I can understand you have a little bit of hesitancy with spending almost 10 grand on Johnny Wall, but I wouldn't. He's carrying what this team can do. On the Pistons side of things, we've got Reg Jackson, who's at 5,600. He hasn't been spectacular, but a nice 28-pointer in the last one was pleasing. Washington and John Wall is a tough matchup, but I think that Jackson is a GPP guy here that I'm not sure many people will be on. So I reckon he's a decent guy to take a look at. For the others, Ish Smith and Trey Burke, I reckon we can leave those blokes alone. At shooting guard, Braddles Beal is at 7,000. I like the matchup if KCP is out a lot better. For Beal, that definitely gives him a bump. 7,000 just feels just marginally too high in FanDuel. He is a much better play on some of the other sites, but he had actually a huge game where he had 9 assists in the last one with 37 FanDuel points. 7,000 is just not that appealing to me unless we hear that Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is out. As for KCP, no chance at 5,500. He's been giving us nothing since Reggie Jackson returned. Hilliard, I mentioned already. I don't think there's going to be much interest in him, even if he does get the start. He didn't play that well in the start the last time that Caldwell-Pope missed. At small forward, Otto Porter's at 55. The salary is not actually dipping. The matchup's shit, and he's not being used. So none of those things really add up to being great for Porter. He still had 25 in the last game, but he played 36 minutes. You would want him to do more, and 25 does not actually pay back 5,500 value enough. You want to go higher than that. So he's not a strong play to me. Marcus Morris at 52 is decent-ish, I guess. We potentially have the Morris twins facing off against each other. At 5,200, I'm not fully enthralled with Marcus in this one here. Oubre at 4,000, he's averaging 26 over the last 3, just 1 start in that time, so that's impressive. He had 27 in that start. I think that Oubre at 4,000, you're going to hear the news about Markieff before lock anyway. And if Markieff's out, then Oubre is definitely someone to not take a look at. He should be almost anchoring your lineups at that 4,000 price tag with, you feel almost locked in at over 6x value. I'd feel pretty confident with Oubre doing that and getting 35-ish plus minutes. So if we hear Markieff's out, he's in. Otherwise, I think Oubre is a decent play, but not great on FanDuel. At power forward, we've got Toby Harris, who's been really struggling, averaging just 17 over the last 3. He's at 5,700. The Wizards aren't necessarily a plus matchup. At some point, he's going to turn it around, but I'm not sure on a 10-game slate that I would want to look at it. In a tournament, of course, he can go for 40. We know that. Johnny Lure at 4,600. He's just not appealing to me. Yeah, he had a big 31-pointer in the last one, but a lot of things have to go right for that to happen, and I just don't trust it on a regular basis. At center, Marcin Gortat's at 6,200. I don't want to spend 6,200 on Marcin Gortat. He hasn't done well against Detroit in the past. He had a nice game more than a nice game, really good game in the last one, but prior to that, he'd been poor. I don't really think that he's worth the expenditure. But 8,300 for Andre Drummond, I do like it. He wasn't great in the last game, just the 19 points for Drummond. This is a plus matchup. He is tough to rely upon in cash, Drummond, but he's been okay for most of the season. He hasn't been as volatile as what he's been in the past. I think that at 8,300, Drummond is definitely someone you can look at. You got some other centres, which we'll talk about later, who are in less appealing situations. So he's one of those guys, if you're spending up at centre, that you can consider, and if you want to use as an alternative to someone like a Marcus Sol or a Hassan Whiteside. Aaron Baines, I don't think we'll be using him, although whenever Drummond's in trouble, Baines is the guy that comes to the rescue. Let's talk Brooklyn and Orlando, and when you look on Basketball Monster, there's a lot of green in this one because these are both some good matchups for both of these teams. Actually, fantastic for Orlando going up against Brooklyn. The Magic are favoured by 6.5, and the total is 217. Now, we have got a couple of injuries, and the important ones. Jeremy Lin, who missed the last game with back tightness, and Nick Vucevic, who missed with a back contusion, and both those absences open up a lot of things. If Lin is out for Brooklyn, it's Shawnee Kilpatrick who gets the bump. Isaiah Whitehead will start, but he doesn't play 30 minutes. He plays like 24 or 25, and he's only really a GPP punt guy, whereas Kilpatrick becomes more a solid cash sort of player. For the Magic, if Vooch is out, then we're going to get more Serge Ibaka, we're going to get more Bismack Biyombo, and we should get more Jeff Green and Aaron Gordon as well. And that worked out pretty bloody well for Aaron Gordon in the last game. So that is important. Let's talk point guards first, though. Lord Alfred Payton has been killing it, really, averaging 32 points over the last three at 5,700 in a real positive matchup. Jeremy Lin is fine, but if he's out, then the Isaiah Whitehead matchup for Payton, we don't know what Frank Vogel will do. Will he give him 30? Will he give him 26 minutes? But he's been killing it in those minutes lately, averaging 32 in 29 minutes in the last three games. And even if we stretch it back to the last five, he's averaging 28 points, basically a FanDuel point per minute. I dislike that his salary is jumped by $600, but this matchup ease almost offsets that, and he is hardly reliable, but he's worth a look at that price. DJ Augustine has been putrid for most of the year. He's at 3,600. Yes, he starts. Yes, he played 30 minutes in the last game, but that yielded 11 points. He's just not good enough at this point. He's always got the ability to blow up, and that could be an instrumental factor. When you're starting, your ability to hit 30 minutes is a lot higher than when you're coming off the bench. So if he gets it going early, it might be a big night for DJ. And again, the point guard matchup with Brooklyn is very positive. So absolutely in a tournament, he can be considered. Lin at 6,700. If he plays, I imagine he'll be limited. So that's a no-go for me. Evan Fournier at 59 has been killing it. Really loving the way that he's been running. It's been better for him with Vucevic out. 38 he's averaging over the last three. At 5,900, if Vooch is out in a positive matchup, you can't help but love Evan Fournier in this spot. Shawnee Kilpatrick, who had 33 in the last game with Lin out, he's at 54. If Lin's out, he's a much better option. I would much prefer to take Fournier, though. In that case, spend that extra $500. Jody Meeks, Joe Harris, no real interest in those guys. Let's talk small forwards. Aaron Gordon dropped 41 in the last game. He's at 4,700, so a $600 price rise for Gordon, which is a pain in the ass, but there's not many better matchups for wing players than the Brooklyn Nets. So where do we sit with Gordon? I think that he is a really good punt option. He becomes appealing there, and if Vooch is out, he solidifies. But this is literally one game. He'd been trending in the right direction, but the minutes had not been. But will this game allow Vogel to say, all right, let's just go with this. Let's just run this out, Gordo. Let's play 32 minutes, and let's see how it runs. He's very appealing, but there's a significant risk factor there. Rondé Hollis-Jefferson's putting up numbers to justify a $3,900 price tag, but you'd have to think, does he continue to get more than a point per minute, which is what he's done over the last three games? I think that's probably hard to expect of him. And at $3,900, when he's playing under 20 minutes a game, he needs to be at that level. I'm not quite sure he is just yet. As for Jeff Green,
my name is Jeff.
He is at 3,900. Well, he's been exceeding that recently. And if Vooch is out, I'd be definitely fine with using him at 3,900. He's averaging 23 over the last three games. Jeffy Green, Bojan Bogdanovic at 46. I would much rather take Gordon. I would much rather take Green than Bogdanovic. Sure, he had 29 in the last game. I just don't believe in him. Sorry. At power forward, Serge at 6,200. I feel like he's just fairly priced if he has a decent game. I know that sounds wishy-washy bullshit, but I just feel like there's there's all downside with Ibaka without having a huge upside. Now, if Vooch is out, then he's more appealing, but I just feel like that he's just not. There's just no way to go up from that price. At center, Bismack at 4,600. If Vooch is out in a really positive matchup, I like Biz. I don't think his ceiling is high. I think he's a solid, cheap cash game center. If Vooch is out, if Vooch plays, I won't be really interested. I won't be looking at Vooch really in any situation. While Brookie Lopez at 7,000, he's been good, but has he been 7,000 good? Not really, but in cash he's actually okay because his lowest score in his last 5 has been 30, and when your bad night is 30 points and it's over 4x, then you're pretty decent. And we know that he can have a 45. We know he can have a 50-point type game with what he can do. And $500 discount on Brook Lopez makes him marginally appealing. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about was with Lopez. I've had a few people mention to me that they've seen somewhere there is speculation that Brook Lopez will be shut down. So people are saying, do I trade him? He's not getting shut down now. They're not just gonna. People say, oh yeah, once we hit January, they're gonna shut him down. No, they're not. That's not going to happen. He was shut down last year. Absolutely, they rested him for the last 6 games in April when your season should be over. So no, there's no real reason. There is zero chance that unless he gets hurt, there is no chance that they in January say, all right, Brook, pack it up, you're done. Not happening. There's no chance that happens in February. In March, there's a marginal chance. In April, yeah. But I think people read it on a report on Roto World saying trade him now because he's going to get shut down. It's not happening. It's not happening in January. It's not happening in February. He's been shut down once in his entire career. Once. That wasn't injury related. And even those, they weren't shutdowns. He broke his bloody foot. He wasn't like, nah, just take it easy. Like, he broke his foot. He wasn't shut down. It happened once. It wasn't him. It wasn't just him. It was Thad Young. It was a Nets thing, not a Lopez thing. And it was for 6 games in April when your season's done. So don't get too trigger happy with Lopez that you need to get rid of him. Public service announcement done. Let's talk about the next game now, which is the Atlanta Hawks and the Toronto Raptors. The Raptors are favored by 7.5. The total is 214.5. And with the way the Raptors are playing, maybe they smash them by 40. Who knows? They've done it once already. We've got Bebe Nogueira, who is questionable, missed the last game with a sore knee. And if he is out, that bumps what Jonas Valanciunas can do. Valanciunas played 35 minutes against the Sixers in what was somewhat of a blowout. So we'd be hoping for pretty much a bigger role for JV in that situation. No other injuries to talk about in this game. At point guard, Kyle Lowry is at 8,600. The ease of point guards against Atlanta is phenomenal. It's one of the best that are out there. So we've seen numerous point guards. Lord Alfred Payton went bananas against the Hawks. Lowry is a lot better than Lord Alfred Payton. Lowry has not been living up to that salary. He's averaging under 40 over the last 5, under 39 in the last 3, and that's sort of where he's been sitting. But does this matchup allow him to give you 42? Sure. Fine. He is absolutely worth a look in a spot where he could have a big night. As for Dennis Schroeder, he is now up to $7,000. But you know what? He's been better than that. He's averaging 38 over the last 3. The problem is that when point guards take on Kyle Lowry, that they get hounded and they do reduce what they can do. So I'm not that eager to use Schroeder, especially with so many other point guards available on a 10-game night. Corey Joseph had 31 against the Sixers. He's at 4,100. That's a fool's errand, I believe, to take a flyer on him. No, it's not. No, it's a fool's errand to use him in cash in a tournament. If you believe a blowout's coming, and maybe he gets up and his ownership will be minuscule, but his ceiling it's not all that high. Malcolm Delaney we won't use either. At shooting guard, DeMar DeRozan, 8,400. He's just solid. You know you're going to get at least sort of 34, 35 out of DeMar. Could be 45, could be 50. Fine. At 8,400, absolutely no worries. Now, we don't know exactly what the Hawks are doing with Kent Bazemore or Timmy Hardaway Jr. This is no it's not for me to say that Bazemore is going to be good if he starts because he's terrible, so we're ignoring him. But what does it do for Hardaway? Well, if we find out that Hardaway's starting and the Bazemore is still limited, at 3,900 for Timmy, he does have that ability to get 27 or 28 and help round out a lineup, so he becomes a tournament play. If Bazemore is starting, do you take a punt on Kent, who's at 4,000 and has been... Well, this is how good he's been. He's averaging 8 points in the last 3. So, yeah, he hasn't been great, but in his last 5, he's had a 38-point performance. So, if Bazemore starts and they say no restrictions, then you can look at him in a tournament. I probably wouldn't do it on principle and the fact that it's a shit matchup, but you know what? Some people will consider that. Kyle Korver at 36, that's his age. It's not his age, it's his price. It probably is his age as well. I don't think that we look at him really. And Norm Powell, languishing. Unleash him, man. I don't know how, but unleash him. Small forwards, the man that's standing in Norm Powell's way. Damari Carroll is at 4,200, continues to be priced really low. And you look at it and you go, man, this is so cheap. And then you look at his numbers and go, okay, he's averaging under 20 points in 5 games. No wonder he's 4,200. It still appeals, but in cash, I don't love it. Now, we've got the extra factor that he's against his former team, but he hasn't done well against them in games that he's played so far. And maybe that's because he's not good. He's not. He's not that good. 4,200 is really appealing. It does look good. And if he gets 24 points, which is hardly a massive night, then he easily repays that. But he's just not getting that. He's just not getting to that level. So he's interesting at that price. I'll put it that way. You know you're struggling when Tabo Cephalosha is averaging way more points than you. 4,500 for Tabo, but he's averaging 29 points over the last 3. And you know what? At 4,500, I think he's a good cash play. I think that yes, the Toronto defense is a concern, but you're getting 23 points out of Tabo at the moment. It feels like he's just doing it every night defensively. Yeah, and getting in the way of things, blocking shots, getting steals, scoring a little bit as well. He's a real interesting player at that price point. At power forward, Pat is at 4,200. I like him on some of the other sites. I don't really like him here on FanDuel. He struggles to crack 20 points, so he's a fade. Mike Muscala, 3,700. He was a nice player at the start of the year, but it's not really happening for him anymore. Paulie Millsap has jumped to 80. Well, he hasn't jumped. He's been at this for a while, actually. 8,300. Really cranking it out, but the Raptors are one of the best defensive teams, especially against big men. 8,300 for Millsap. Yeah, despite averaging 47 over the last 3 games, I probably leave him alone here, and I would fade him. Of course, we're always fading Pascal Siakam. At center, Dwighty Howard at 7,400. He has been fairly good after a significant slump. He has bounced back. He's had 2 days rest, much like the rest of the Atlanta team. They're not coming off a back-to-back, or even the last time they played was on Tuesday, I believe. So Howard at 7,400 is decent, but not spectacular. Whereas Valanciunas in the last game without Bebe, he had 34 points in 34 minutes. And at 5,500, if you're getting 30-plus minutes, then you can lock him in. Now, Howard is a difficult defensive matchup, and if Bebe plays, I won't use JV, but if Bebe's out, then I'd be okay using Valanciunas at that $5,500 price tag, and assuming I get 30 points out of him. And I don't think that's too much to assume. Let's talk about the Charlotte Hornets and the Boston Celtics. There is no spread out for this one just yet, but the news is that Gerald Green is questionable with a left hip injury. I'm sure that impacts so much. But the other news, of course, is that Isaiah Thomas is, and to quote Isaiah Thomas, he is going to be suited and booted. Never heard that in my life, but I do enjoy it. He is ready to go. Isaiah Thomas is back, so all your Terry Rozier gambles is done. Your Marcus Smart value is cut significantly as well. Avery Bradley loses out somewhat also. Let's talk point guards. And we've got to start on the other side because Kemba Walker is out for personal reasons, so Ramon Sessions will start. And whenever he's had a start before, like back in his time in Charlotte, back last season in Washington, you're going to get numbers. At 4,300, look, the salary has risen by 800 as a preemptive rise because Kemba's out, which pisses me off. But anyway, that's what's happened. I don't think that it's necessarily risen too high, and you should be looking at 25. I think 25 plus for Ramon is not too much to ask. He's not a great shooter, He's not a great steals man, but he gets assists and he can score. So I think at 4,300, a starting point guard, when, man, the other guys are Aaron Harrison and Brian Roberts. Sessions is no Jeremy Lin, but he's also no Brian Roberts. So I think there's value in looking at him, and it's going to be interesting how they handle the Celtics without Kemba. As for Thomas, at 8,200, the matchup's fantastic. He hasn't personally done well against Charlotte before, but I think when you've got Sessions, not that Kemba's a great defender, but you don't have to pay really as much respect to Sessions defensively as what you do to Kemba. That could help Isaiah conserve some energy. It's always a tough situation to grab someone first game back when it's a groin issue specifically, so he's not a strong play to me. Marcus Smart loses out, 5,100. He'd been really good DFS-wise, averaging 26 over the last 3 games. That probably dips a bit, but the positive matchup here is important. And the fact that he's still going to get 30 minutes regardless, but he just moves out of the point guard spot and plays more on the wing, which does reduce his ability to collect stats. Rozier and Brian Roberts obviously are not going to be worth a look. At shooting guard, Nick Batum at 7,400 actually. I don't mind it. He's been decent. He had 41 on his birthday in the last game, but otherwise prior to that he hadn't quite been there. And the fact that his salary has jumped by $600 is not it's not that awesome to me. Avery Bradley at 72. Well, a nice 49 pointer in the last one is obviously fantastic, but how much do we look at that and say that's going to happen again with Isaiah Thomas back? I say we look at it and say it's not going to happen. So I don't want to spend 7,200 on Avery Bradley in this environment. At small forward, Jay Crowder at 56. I think he's solid. He probably doesn't have a huge amount of tournament upside, to be honest, but he does have he does have some cash reliability, which at that price is definitely not a bad thing to have. I didn't touch on it earlier. I should touch on it now that I was going to do the birthday monitoring. No active NBA player has a birthday on Friday, so it's another day that we can't test this theory. Other small forwards, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, just not consistent enough. 4,900 is way too... His price went up by $200. I'm not really sure what algorithm FanDuel is using, but the fact that he scored 16 points in the last game and saw a $200 rise in his price means even further that you should be like, forget about it. Marco Bellinelli's getting some of those Kidd-Gilchrist minutes, but he doesn't turn it into DFS value, so he's not someone that's a strong add or strong use anyway. Marv Williams at 4,100. He's brutally bad. He's piss poor, to be honest. But the Celtics front court does allow players to put up numbers. Is Marvin Williams a player? Sure. You could classify him as that, I guess. I want nothing to do with him in any sort of cash situation. In a tournament, sure. He could have 30, but even then, I don't feel his upside's all that high. 4,100 is not a high price, but his highest score in his last 5 games has been 22 points. It's not big. He's just not that good. Frank the Tank at 45, too much of a minutes squeeze on him, and we know that Amir Johnson and Jonas Jerebko, that's all minute squeeze. They're not going to be useful to us. Cody Zeller at 5,000, just a little overpriced to me on FanDuel. He's been really good. He's much better in sort of seasonal 9-cat, 8-cat leagues. 5,000 is a little bit too expensive on DFS, whereas Al Horford at 7,700, his salary's dropped by $200, but his production is not really quite at that 7,700 value. It's not a bad matchup for him, but he just doesn't feel like a guy that I want to spend $7,700 on. Kelly Olynyk and Roy Hibbert, I don't think there's no real reason to recommend those guys in DFS leagues. Let's talk about the Los Angeles Clippers and the Miami Heat. The Clippers on the road are favored by 7, and the total here is 207.5 points. We've got a few situations we need to monitor. Luke Babbitt, who has been probable the last 2 games, hasn't played. I'm just assuming that he's out of the rotation now, so that doesn't really matter. But Tyler Johnson, who has been really good, is questionable with an illness. If he misses, then we get some bumps to guys like Scooter Magruder and Wayne Ellington, and a little bit extra to Joshie Richardson. In fact, that might actually move, well, actually, I won't say move, it'll delay Richardson's move into the starting lineup if Johnson happens to miss. On the Clippers side of things, Luke Mamute is questionable with his shoulder. If he misses, it'll be another Austin Rivers start, and we know how well that went last time, so then he comes into play almost no doubt. Whether he is as good as what he was against the Magic, where he drained 7 triples, That's probably more doubtful, but the role will be there, and we've seen in the past that when Austin Rivers gets a role with the starters, he plays well. So that's going to be something to watch. Let's talk point guards now. Chrissy Paul is at 9,400. Yes, the Heat are quite a good team defensively. Does that restrict what Paul can do? It doesn't make him that great to me at 9,400. I think that's just a little expensive. I'd rather go up and take Johnny Wall at that 9,800 that we saw before. Not really loving Chris Paul there. On the other side, Goran Dragic is going to be guarded by Chris Paul. That's never a pleasant situation. At 7,200, I'm not willing to invest that money in Dragic with Paul on the other side. As for Tyler Johnson at 5,500, he had a nice 34-pointer in the last one, but the Chris Paul defense, or even the Ray Felton or the Clippers defensive scheme, is an issue for point guard. So 5,500 for Tyler when he might, or he is under the weather, is probably not a great investment either. As for Austin Rivers, 4,100, put up 34 in the last game. If we hear that Mamute is out, absolutely look at him. I reckon that he'll get highly owned though in tournaments, and that might make him somewhat of a fade at that price, but I'd be totally okay with considering it, because maybe people will look at it and go, total fluke, it's Austin Rivers, he only plays because of his dad, and might lead to a under-owned situation, which doesn't normally happen after someone had a huge game. But it could very well happen given the dislike of Austin Rivers as an NBA player. Shooting guards, JJ Redick is at 4,100. I can't see any way that you can trust what JJ Redick does at this point, averaging under 15 points in the last 5. Pass on that. Joshy Rich at 4,400. If Tyler Johnson is out, I'm more interested in Josh, but the matchup is still not a positive one, but I would use him if Tyler Johnson happens to be out. Jamal Crawford put up a nice 3 points in the last game. He is at 3,800, and he had been solid, but obviously wasn't in the last game. If Mamute is out, then it opens up some extra minutes for him on the wing, so maybe you'd consider him as a tournament flyer, because we know that he can give you 30, but his floor is fairly low as well. The Duke Wayne Ellington at 4,500. I don't want to use him even if Johnson is out. And Scooter Magruder, I'll say the same thing. He's averaging 8 points over his last 3 games, and his minutes are tumbling unless Johnson's out. But even then, not going to touch him. Small forward Justice Winslow is back. He's at 4,700. That is a hard pass for me in this matchup. James Johnson, though, at 4,900. I like it. He had 26 in the last game. He can be better than that. I don't think I'd want to use him in cash, but I think with James Johnson, knowing what he can do, that he legit is a bench guy that can have 50, because he could have 5 triples, 5 steals, 5 blocks. He could do that. He could have a 5x5 as well and hit 5 threes. He can do all that, meaning his upside is through the roof. Luke Marmute's upside is whatever the opposite of through the roof, like stuck on the floor. That's not a saying, is it? I don't think so. Let's talk power forwards. Blakey Griffin at 8,900. Hasn't been right at that level lately. I don't hate him though. If you've got some cash around, I think you should feel relatively confident that Griffin can get close to 40. Just probably pushing 5x might be tough on FanDuel. Mo Spates, Josh McRoberts, there's no interest there. There is in the centers though, because DeAndre Jordan is at $7,000. He had 47 in the last game, which was obviously huge. It's a nice positive matchup. Centers can do pretty well against Whiteside. Can he get to 35? I can't see why not. His lowest score has been 28 over the last 5, so a nice solid floor and a decent ceiling. He can go from that 30 to 50 range, and at 7,000, I think that in both sorts of formats, DeAndre Jordan is an option. As is Hassan Whiteside. He had a nice 53-pointer, but he's at 9,200. With a $500 price rise on FanDuel, it makes him less appealing. On some of the other sites, his salary is much more appealing. But 9,200 makes him somewhat of a tougher guy to use, especially in a DeAndre Jordan matchup. So, yeah, he's tougher to use on FanDuel. Let's talk the rematch, the Milwaukee Bucks and the Chicago Bulls. Milwaukee comes to Chicago this time. The Bulls are favored by 4.5, so Vegas obviously didn't watch that last game. 206.5 is the total here in this one. Michael Beasley is questionable with that midfoot sprain that caused him to miss Thursday's action. All he does, if he returns, is it cuts into what Mirza Teletovic can do, and Teletovic would be somewhat of a punt option, but that's really about it. 6,000 for Rajon Rondo. He was terrible today, but you know what? Point guards against the Bucks are generally terrible. And when you're already terrible to begin with, That's not a good combination. So leave him alone. Matty Dellavedova at 4,100. I like what he does in seasonal leagues. Not so much he's okay in DFS, but not at 4,100. I don't really love him at that price tag. While Malcolm Brogdon at 3,600. Again, seasonal leagues, like what he does. DFS, not so much. Shooting guard Yanni is at 9,900. All aboard, lock it in. He got 57 today. He's averaging 52 across the last 3. And again, doing it without really looking absolutely spectacular and dominant. Just had 3 assists today, so this number could have been way, way higher. The Bulls can't stop him. Rondo can't stop him. If Wade can't stop him, can Butler stop him? Maybe. No one can stop him. I love him at 9,900. Dwayne Wade, back-to-back, 7,300. Yeah, probably a fade to me on a back-to-back for Wade. Small forwards. Jim Butler. He's at 9,000. Didn't have his best game today. I would expect that he bounces back at home. I don't feel 100% confident in him, though. I think that you look at him, and you can consider him in cash. I think he's more of a tournament guy, but I think you can look at him in cash. I just don't feel 100% confident on a back-to-back when there are so many other options around. Tony Snell and Doug McDermott, unless you're creating a taking the piss line, I don't think you really need to look at those guys too hard. And Mizet, as I mentioned, he is a punt option if Beasley happens to be out. Otherwise, we have no ability to predict what sort of minutes he is going to get. Or we can predict them, we just don't know if we'll be right. At power forward, Jabari Parker, 6,300. I love him. It's a great matchup against the Bulls front court. He gets up for matches against Chicago. He had 43 today. I'm not expecting another 40, but I'm expecting him to get to 35-ish around that mark. So I think he is a great option there. Bob Portis, who's back in the rotation, he remains terrible, so leave him alone. While Taj Gibson at 5,300. Actually, he had a nice game today, but that's his first one in it feels like weeks. So he is not a target to me. The centers, again, is where it's at. Rob Lopez at 5,100. Didn't get it going, but I still love the matchup, so this is a chance for him to bounce back. While Johnny Henson at 4,600. He's also got a positive matchup, but his form is a little bit more fluctuable in general, so probably lean towards him in a tournament, but he's not a horrible cash play. And 4,800 for Greggy Monroe. Give him 27 minutes and I'm all over it. At 22, it just feels like, yeah, this is the right amount, and that's not what I want when I'm constructing a DFS lineup. Let's talk the next game, which is a great way to go about it. The Los Angeles Lakers and the Philadelphia 76ers. The Sixers, yes, the Sixers are favored by 1.5, and the total is 208. Joel Embiid is listed as probable. He has a left knee contusion, so we imagine he should be right. Dario Saric has a right knee contusion. He is probable. The two guys who are questionable in this game is Tariq Black from the Lakers. I think that he's more doubtful, but he's listed as questionable currently. And Nerlens Noel is questionable for the Sixers. I don't really have a read on Noel at this point. For point guards, let's talk Spanish Chocolate. He's at 5,000. It's a great matchup. I'm all aboard using Spanish Chocolate here. I think this is a spot for him to exceed 30 points. Really think there's a chance of that to happen against this Lakers team. Jordy Clarkson at 48, not a chance that I want to be or have any interest there. He's struggling to get enough playing time, averaging just 24 minutes across the last 3. And with everyone healthy and maybe D'Angelo Russell actually playing some more minutes, that's going to eat into what Clarko can do as well. So not keen. As for Russell, he's at 5,800. Until he's back to his full allotment of minutes, I'm not going to invest at that price tag. But there's going to be a sweet spot where his salary keeps coming and his salary keeps coming down and his minutes keep coming up. That's going to make him a great play. For now, he's too highly priced for what he's doing and how much he's playing. Shooting guards, Louis Williams has dropped by a significant $600, so it puts him back in play. Do I want to use him? It's debatable. It's close. He is averaging just 27 over the last 3, which at 56 is pretty much where he wants to be. So I think I will likely fade him just with the uncertainty with exactly how many... Well, actually, it's not really uncertainty. I feel pretty confident he's going to get between 24 and 26 minutes with everyone back, and it's uncertainty. Does he go out and shoot superhuman, or does he shoot like Lou Williams that we've known for 9 years? I'll lean towards 9-year Lou Williams. Gerald Henderson at 3,500. Look, he's a starting shooting guard who had 19 points in the last game. He can get you 25 or 26. It's always a tournament play, but it's not a strong one. Uncle P, though, at 4,000. I like Uncle P at 4,000. He's getting close to 30 minutes. He actually had 30 in the last one, dropped to 22. And I think you should feel confident of him getting close to 20 on the majority of nights, especially a game against his former team, much like Lou Williams. against his former team. So there's actually, am I confusing that with Nick Young? I'm completely having a brain fart. Did Nick Young play for the Wizards? Scrap that completely. But anyway, I still do like Nick Young in this matchup, just with that ability to get you 25 or 26 at $4,000, I think is useful. Source Castillo has dropped off. He's at 3,600. We can leave him alone. Small forward Lu Deng is flying at the moment, which is a weird thing to say. He's at 4,300. He's averaging over 30 points over the last three. With the trend of his minutes, which is upper 20s, and Brandon Ingram into mid to low 20s, I think that you can look at Deng, and I think his ownership will be relatively low. It's not like the matchup is a real negative. Now, Bob Cove's a good defender, but teams are still putting up fantasy stats at small forward against the Sixers. The minutes are in the right direction, averaging 30 over the last three, 30 points in those ones, so we're talking a point a minute. And even if he plays 25 minutes and goes at a point a minute, then that's fine at 4,300. So I think that Deng is a sneaky option in a lot of situations. As for Bob Cove, he's at 5,000. He just dropped a casual 40 in the last game. I think that 5,000 Bob Cove is a solid play. Nothing makes me think that the Lakers are going to be able to... The only person who can shut Bob Cove down is Bob Cove. Now, could he have a shit shooting night? Of course he could. That makes him someone that is probably more suited towards tournaments, but I don't 100% hate it in a cash game. I think there is something to be extracted there. Brandon Ingram, I think we forget about that. Power forwards, Julius Randle, 6,200. No thanks. Larry Nance at 4,000. He had 22 in the last game, but he just needs a bigger avenue for minutes for me to really get too involved in a night with 10 games on. Ersan Ilyasova on the bench, played 22 minutes. Now, if we hear that Embiid is out and Noel is out, then of course we look at Ilyasova at 5,500 and say, let's play him. If Embiid and Noel play, it's pretty much impossible to consider him. And the same story with Dario Saric. I wouldn't be using Nerlens either at 5,700, given he's played 10 minutes of basketball this season. At center, the process is at 7,100. The matchup is super, super appealing for Embiid, but there is a risk associated with him, and it's this price tag is making it a little bit tough to use him. He could easily drop 40, no problem, but the actual upside from him is dropping considerably, so I'm not sure that trusting the process here is going to be the best option. In fact, $2,000 less, Jahlil Okafor, don't mind him. And I don't say that about Okafor very often. His minutes are trending up. He's averaging 28 over the last 5, and coincidentally, 28 points over the last 5, which at 5,800, you get 28 points. I've got no issue with that. His lowest score in the last 5 games has been 23. Decent floor, decent ceiling. I think that he is probably the pivot center here, and a guy that not many will be on. The Nerlens Noel potential appearance worries me to a degree, but Noel's not coming out there after having 2 lower body issues, coming back for 10 minutes, suffering a separate one. He's not coming out there and playing 20 minutes. He's playing 15 maybe, and that's going to come at the expense of Richaun Holmes, Ersan Ilyasova, and Saric rather than Okafor. It appears that Brett Brown wants to see more Embiid and Okafor together, and he's going to do it in this game. So I think that Okafor is a very, very nice option. Now, Tim Mozgov in the last game played over 30 minutes and he had 31 points. Do we think he can do it again? If Tariq Black is out, I think there's a chance of it. I just don't have full confidence. But at 3,700, well, we know that, and we've seen it in his time in Denver and Cleveland, that when the minutes come, this dude can have 20 and 20 games. And at 3,700, that smashes value. So if there's any inclination, any whispers from Walton that he's in for a bigger night, then go ahead. Otherwise, it's just a bit of a stab in the dark as to whether that actually comes true or not. This podcast has gone forever. The Sacramento Kings and the Memphis Grizzlies. No spread release for this one. There's a lot of injury news. Rudy Gay is doubtful. Ben McLemore is doubtful for Sacramento, so they probably won't play. So we're likely going to get another start of Omri Caspi and Garrett Temple. For the Memphis Grizzlies, the news is that James Ennis is going to play. He's probable. He's expected back to play, so he is going to play. Mike Conley and Chandler Parsons are doubtful. They won't play on Friday, but they'll be back on the weekend. So the fact Tony Douglas is gone, his ass has been waived. He no longer plays for Memphis because Ennis is back and Conley and Parsons are back. Fantastic news for basketball, fantastic news for fantasy people, fantastic news for Memphis people. Let's see how they go. They'll probably be worse now that these players are back, considering they went 7-2 without Conley. But it's just great to have these guys back. So there's still a little bit of value to be had in this game. At point guard, Andy Harrison with Tone Douglas out and no other point guard because Wade Baldwin's in the D-League. Harrison's going to have to play a decent amount of minutes, I think is probably the best way of putting it. So at 4,100, you can definitely have a look at him. And I think that he's going to be a worthwhile guy to look at because legit, there's no one else. Unless Baldwin comes back up, which he could because he played in the D-League today. So maybe they bring him back up. But otherwise, there's no other point guard. So have a look at Andy Harrison. Ty Lawson's at 4,000. I'm not interested in him really. And Darren Collison at 59. Just not really even approaching that value on most nights. Really tough to consider using him, especially in a negative matchup against Memphis. At shooting guard, Garrett Temple's at 4,000. Had 26 in the last start. I think he's going to be he can fall off definitely. So there is some risk in it. But at 4,000 as a starter who'd already been playing 27 a night in a game that should be more competitive than the last one that the Kings played against the Rockets, I think you should be looking at 30 plus for Garrett. And hopefully 28, 29 points, which at 4,000 makes him a superb play. So put him into your player pool. Tone Allen at 52. The return of Jim Ennis, it dampens my enthusiasm with Allen somewhat. He had 33 in the last game, but I don't think you get the 33 minutes again. And some of his shot attempts will definitely be reduced as well. So I don't think that Tone Allen is definitely a great guy to take a look at. Troy Daniels, with Ennis returning, he drops off as well. Small forwards, Vince Carter, Troy Williams, and James Ennis for Memphis. Ennis is at 3,900. You could punt on him. I just don't think he's going to play 25 or 26 straight off the bat. Carter and Williams have really very limited use now that Ennis is back. Matty Barnes on the Kings side of things, he played 21 minutes in the last game, didn't do a lot. It's really hard to consider using Barnes at power forward. Omri Caspi at 43 didn't really live up to the expectations in the last game, but I do believe in him at 4,300. The matchup is not ideal, but I think that 4,300 for Omri Caspi makes him a really solid tournament play. I think he's got 30, 35 point upside, no doubt to me. JaMychal Green with all these guys back is not appealing. He has really, really struggled of late, and that was sort of what we saw earlier on in the season as well, whereas 5,700 for Zebo is not a price that I want to pay for a guy getting 21 minutes a night. Jarrell Martin, Willie Cauley-Stein, Anthony Tolliver. Well, Cauley-Stein and Tolliver had huge games with Boogie out in the last game. That's not going to be the case here. Cousins will be ready to go, so I don't think we need to be too invested in those blokes. Now we've got the other matchup issue, which is the centers, DeMarcus Cousins and Marc Gasol. When you play against Boogie, you get into foul trouble. When you play against Gasol, you normally get shut down. So how do we look at these guys? 11,000 for Boogie. Yeah, look, he's averaging big numbers, but his last 3 games against Memphis is 42 points. Not worth it. Gasol at 8,800. He's averaging 47 across his last 5, but you play Boogie, you get into trouble. His last 3 games against the Kings, 36 points. Not enough at 8,800. I think that they're probably more tournament guys, and in cash, it's really tough to use them, just given the fact that they're playing each other. Now, the last time that Boogie played Gobert, Boogie got Gobert, but it didn't affect Rudy. So, does the same thing happen with Mark? I don't know. But it's not a positive situation for either of these guys. Let's see if we can get this podcast done in under 2 hours. Can't believe it's gone for 2 hours. All right. New Orleans and Houston, the second last game of the night. The Rockets at 11.5 point favorite, and the total is 220 points here. Let's talk point guards. Drew is at 7,000. Drew Holiday is 7,400. Huge game. I think he's going to continue to have huge games while Timmy Frazier is out. Absolutely no problem, except that it's a back-to-back and Patrick Beverley is going to be guarding him. So while I do like it on the surface, the negative of those two things probably makes me fade Drew outside of GPPs. As for Pat Bev, he's at 5,600 now, and yeah, he's been playing well, but not enough for me to spend 5,600 on, so that's a pass. I love Jim Harden. He's 11,800. It's not like the Pelicans defense is great. It's not like their shooting guard defense is great. Harden is going to be a 55-point sort of player. 11,800 is a big chunk, but pair him with a Garrett Temple or one of these other Ramon Sessions, some other cheaper guys, get him in, get those guys to give you 6x value. Maybe he gives you 4.7, and that's enough to get you into a nice cash situation. Eric Gordon, who I've talked about a lot, he's putting up a lot of threes, but it's not great for DFS with the FanDuel scoring. He's averaging only 25 over the last 5, and that's with him playing absolutely out of his brain. And at 5,300, it's just not enough. So I don't love Eric Gordon. You have to maybe factor in the former team aspect, but how much better can he actually play? That's why I think he's probably a fade to me. Lang Galloway at 4,300. It didn't really work out for him today. The salary's up, so that's a pass. Bud Hield had 27. Can you look at Bud at 3,800? Look, that's one game that he's had, so you can absolutely do it, but you wouldn't trust it and you don't put much confidence in it. But you can absolutely have a look at Hield at that almost minimum salary. Each one more you won't look at, and Tyreek, I don't think he's going to be playing enough minutes at 6,900 to warrant any use. Trev Ariza is at 5,800. He had 28 in the game against the Kings in just 29 minutes. He's been good this year. Is he 5,800 good? There are better players around, I believe, at that price tag. And Solomon Hill, of course not. Sammy Decker dropped to 27 in the game against the Kings, but despite the matchup being almost as good, the minute load probably won't quite be there for Sammy. Let's talk the power forwards now. Terrence Jones against his former team. He had 30 in the last outing, today against the Pacers. How does he go against his former team? Sure, in a tournament, if you believe in revenge narratives, go for it. Same with Ryan Anderson, who's at 5,300. He had a 31-pointer against the Kings. This is a positive matchup for Anderson. He is a risky play because he is so up and down, and the salary rising by $400 is also not superb for Rhino, but I can totally understand playing him and hoping for a big game. I just won't be doing it. Tony Davis at 11,800 had a nice 60-pointer today. Of course he did. And that's another good way to spend 11,800, either him or Harden. If it's one of those two, it's probably going to be Harden for me. But Davis, of course, is going to be always in consideration for 60 points. For the centers, Clint Capella, he's risky. He's at 5,500. The ease is really good, but is he going to play 29 minutes? He's going to play 18 minutes? He's going to play 23? Like, what is D'Antoni going to do with his minutes? And that makes him risky. If your balls are there, the situation's really good and he could get 30 really comfortably, but it might not work in your favour. The positive thing is his lowest score in the 5 games has been 18, which, when he's limited to games of under 20 minutes, still getting 18 points at 5,500 is not a total disaster. It might still be okay to cash in cash games, but obviously it's not helping you in GPP situations. Nene, Ajinça, Ashik, I think we'll leave all of those guys. I believe all the centers in this team are international players, which is not something that happens often. Unless if you count Montrezl Harrell, that's not. But Capella, Nene, Ajinça, and Ashik, all international guys. Let's finish off the night with the Dallas Mavericks and the Utah Jazz. Whatever this is, it's a game where you don't want to pay too much attention. The Jazz are favored by 12. Blowout. The total is 186. Yuck. Salah Mejri, one of the guys, one of the real only guys who would have a ton of value, is questionable with that ankle issue. George Hill is out. So that means Shelvin Mack is going to get the bulk of the minutes. He's at 4,100, but there's no harder team as a point guard to play against than Dallas. Plus, we've got a shit spread here. Do we look at him at 4,100? I think you do. I think you can look at him. He's basically giving you 25 a game, and at 4,100, that's fine. And if that dips and gives you 22 points, it's okay. I just don't think his upside is really all that high with the FanDuel scoring. Darren Williams at 6,100, not against the Jazz, not for me. And Dante Exum and Devin Harris, no chance. I do like Rod Hood, though. He's at 5,400. The matchup on the wings is a little bit easier than point guards against Dallas. It's still not ideal, but 5,400 for Rod with no George Hill. He should be getting lots of opportunities. He dropped 27 in that game against the Thunder, and I don't see any reason why he shouldn't be able to get close to that again. So I do like Rod as a cheap shooting guard. Wes Matthews at 5,500. Not a good match from him in the last game. He's been playing fantastically before that, though. In a slow-paced slog, which is what this is probably going to be, I think he's a fade. Seth Curry is definitely a fade. Small forwards, the pencil at 6,000. No. Gordie Hayward at 79. Yeah, interested in Gordie Hayward. Not that interested in the pace of this game, which is a little bit disappointing. Hayward's okay, but at 7,900, I don't love it on FanDuel. Dorian Finney-Smith at 42. A bit of a disappointment in the last game. Absolutely, you can look at DFS in DFS. That's a lame joke. I'll stop doing that one. You can absolutely look at him. Joey Ingles has been on fire, but I think he's a tough guy to roster with 10 games on, and Joe Johnson is not interesting. At power forward, if Salah Mejri is out, Dwight Powell at 4,200 is going to be an absolute favourite across many lineups. He's been yuck, no denying that. 15 points in 3 games, average 18 points in his last 5. That's yuck at 4,200, but he might have to play big minutes. Or Rick Carlisle will just be frustrated with him again and run AJ Hammonds out there, which is another opportunity. So if we hear that Mejri is out, then Powell is a tournament option, but I won't be using him in cash. Well, I don't think I will be anyway. At power forward, Trey Lyles, Derek Favors, Boris Diaw. That's just a mess just at this point until Favors gets going, so there's no interest there. At centre, Mejri at 4,000. Well, he's going to get Gobert if he plays, so no thank you. And Gobert at 7,300 has been flying. It feels tough at 7,300, but I don't hate it. His lowest score in his last 5 has been 35 points, so I think that Gobert is a decent centre if you want to spend that sort of mid-priced amount. No reason to think that he won't be able to get at least 30 plus. Like I said, his lowest score has been 35, so he should be able to get close to that. All right, that is it. Let's talk picks of the day now. FanDuel. Ramon Sessions 4,300. Reggie Jackson 56 and Johnny Wall 98 at shooting guard. Uncle P at 4,000, Rod Hood 54 and Jimmy Harden 11,008. Small forward Aaron Gordon 47 with a little bit of, let's see what happens with Vooch. Jay Crowder 56 and Jim Butler at 9,000. Still not that confident with Jim there. Omri Caspi at 43 for the power forwards. Jabari Parker 63 and Tony Davis 11,800. And centers Johnny Henson 46, Charlie Locafor 51 and Andre Drummond 8,300. On DraftKings, Ramon Sessions 37, Lord Alfred Payton 51, Johnny Wall 89. Shooting guards Gerald Henderson as a punt at 33, DeMar DeRozan 78 and Jimmy Harden 12,000. Small forwards Tone Snell 33, Jay Crowder 54, Jim Butler 9,000. Of course, Snell is a punt. Power forwards Dwight Powell 39, Okafor 51 and Blakey Griffin at 8.2. And the centers Johnny Henson 42, Al Horford much cheaper on DraftKings 63 and Hassan Whiteside 8,700. Let's look at the Aussie sites now. We're talking Moneyball first. Ramon Sessions 3,500, Reggie Jackson 5,000 and Johnny Wall 94. Shooting guards Rod Hood 47, Brad Beal 62 and Harden at 11,000. Small forwards Omri Caspi 36, Gordie Hayward 73, much better price there, and Yanni at 9,900. The power forwards Johnny Henson 41, Jabari 64 and Blake 83. And the centers Jaleel Okafor 49, Joel Embiid 62 and much more appealing price there. And Hassan Whiteside 85. On Draft Stars, Ramon Sessions 52, Lord Alfred 99 and Johnny Wall 18.2. Shooting guards Garrett Temple 5250, Shawnee Kilpatrick 89 and Jimmy Harden 23.6. Small forwards Kelly Oubre 5,000, that's minimum. Marcus Morris 9350 and Jim Butler 15050. Power forwards Omri Caspi 61, Johnny Henson 8750, and the centers Pat 7250, Robin Lopez 87 and Hassan Whiteside 14,800. I have no idea why this podcast went for 2 hours, so I apologize. I do try to keep them as short as I can, but I was distracted with tangents and rants and interesting information. It was huge. If you get to the end of this podcast, tell me. Code word is hashtag TTP in honor of this t-shirt that I'm wearing. I'll hold it up for you guys to see on the video. There you go. Just tweet me, TTP, hashtag TTP, if you made it through to the end of this ridiculously long podcast. Follow me on Twitter at redrock_bball. Check out the rest of the Locked On Podcast Network and, of course, Basketball Monster and our Twitter account there, which is at BaskMonster, BASK Monster. We're done, finally. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya. Greg Popovich. Sega Strong.